but rather, your consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio. I'll be taking you beyond the veil this evening. I'm joined, of course, by my lovely wife and co-pilot, Mrs. Gio.
Good evening, everyone.
And we have an awesome show for you guys tonight. We'll be taking your calls a little bit later in the broadcast. Call number is right down there at the bottom, 833-BTV Live and 213-233-3998. But if you want to hold off, we're probably going to go for maybe an hour or something like that before we start taking calls, because we have a lot of awesome topics that we want to get into with everybody tonight. So it has to do with sex magic, which is something that has come up on Facebook and people have been talking about it. And I have some views and opinions on spirituality and new age stuff and things like that that are kind of against the new age zeitgeist. But you know what? Here's the thing. I mentioned some of these opinions earlier to somebody, and they said, "Oh, that's very old school." And I said, "Yeah, it's very old school. It's ancient. That's where we're from. We're bringing the ancient knowledge. We're bringing the ancient age, the stuff that actually worked." So, What do you think about that, Mrs. Gio?
Well, there's always been this energy that people have tapped into. I mean, it's just like in a video game when you've got different codes that allow certain things to happen that aren't usually allowed in the game, but because you put in this code, it just happens. They would call that magic if it was in a civilization that was about 1,000 years predating us. They wouldn't know what to call it except, oh, it's magic. It just happens. You know, it's this ethereal process when really it's an electronic one. And I think, you know, all the stories that we have of vampires and magic and wizards and witches and all of that, it all comes from people that knew how to manipulate the code of this reality.
Very well said. Warrior McKenzie just sent in a donation. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Warrior.
Starting off the donations this evening. And as I've said before, the donations all go into a pot for the next activation site, which I do want to talk about the other activation site too. I want to get into the virus that's been going around. I got hit with it. We both got hit with it for the last 2 weeks. People in Australia, Sweden, literally all over the world. I mean, I think the only continent that we haven't talked to is Asia, and but I'm pretty sure they're hitting it as well. They're getting hit with it. It's something huge, and I have my theories as to what exactly that's about. So I want to get into that during the course of the broadcast too.
Yes, definitely, because along with upgrades in this reality, we also have downgrades, and we also have hacks that we can use to build ourselves up, to build up our immune systems, to build those kinds of things up. But I think people who are part of this reality, like non-player characters, you know, people that are part of the internal structure of this reality, they're not going to be able to bounce back from it as much as other people. And so, yeah, I mean, we're getting upgrades, but we're being tested as we go along in some way.
That's true.
Does that make sense?
It does, to a certain degree. I'm doing some audio work over here while we're talking. Oh, I think I'm messing with your.
Oh wow, Dr. Swazi said, "Yeah, I just had it with 105 fever. Ouch."
Wow. Okay, we didn't get fever. Cherie got a little bit of a fever.
I got a fever. Bad.
Yeah, but there's been some crazy things going on. So where do we begin tonight, Mrs. Gio? I'll let you begin. Oh, I want to say this too for everybody watching on YouTube. We have had this consistent problem with YouTube where all of our videos go out of sync about 2 days after they're finished. So we always have to put in a tech ticket. YouTube fixes it, but it always takes them like 5 days to fix it. I don't know what this glitch is, but it's nothing on our end, and there's nothing we can do about it. But the audio and video goes out of sync. It sucks if you're watching it and the audio video is out of sync. Yeah. It'll go back to normal sooner than later. We're going to have to make like a caveat as far as that goes for that. I think we should start with sex.
Yeah, let's start.
Let's talk about sex.
Everything always begins with sex.
It does. It does.
The reproductive act is what creates.
Yes.
And I mean, you can create within yourself. You can be creative, but there's nothing more creative in this universe than two people coming together to create something. And sometimes they create a child, but then sometimes if they're a little bit more on the programming side, they want to create a new reality.
Well, it started out as a joke on Facebook. I just posted just a joke. And I said, there's something to sex magic and manifesting reality because most people, when they climax, think about this. Most people, when they climax, they go, oh God, oh baby, oh God, oh baby, oh God, oh baby. And then 9 months later, a baby comes out. And that's why when I have sex, I always yell out, oh Ferrari, oh $10 million, oh penthouse suite. It was a joke. But some people took it seriously, which was kind of funny. And they were like, oh, yeah, using sex magic for spirituality and for material gain and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, it's just a joke. It's not funny if I put it in a manifesting spiritual energy context. It takes away from the joke.
Right.
The whole point of it.
You're ruining the joke.
Yeah. People take things a little bit too seriously. And I was there too. And I don't want to sound like I'm talking down to anybody or talking bad about anybody, but really, when you take life a little too seriously, in my opinion, that's first level spirituality. When you're first trying to get there, when you've already gotten there, the game changes. And we've talked about the CIA document where we went into the Kundalini loop and how it's important to close the loop. It's a circle. It's not just an upwards progression because it can actually cause damage, according to the CIA document that we covered, to the physical body. It can actually cause spinal damage, and it also leaves you in a state of susceptibility. So on the same note, it's important to close the ego loop as well. You go to a place of ego loss through the spirituality, then come back around, and you are sure about who you are. I've said this a million times over. But the same goes for taking things too seriously. We're supposed to enjoy our lives. We're supposed to laugh. We're supposed to have fun. I don't take myself too seriously. I did at one point. And you know what that resulted in? That resulted in me just getting frustrated about literally everything and what people were saying and all kinds of things like that. Because I was putting my heart and soul into what we were doing with Truth Frequency when we first started and all this. And people, you know how people are. And it was like personally affecting me because I was taking myself too seriously because I'm like, hey, I'm putting my heart and soul. How can you say these things about me? And then now I'm like, hey, go fuck yourself. I don't hesitate to tell somebody to go fuck themselves. And, I'm a lot more reserved when I do. But somebody just recently posted a comment and they were like, there's a lot of disinformation here on the Book of Enki stuff that we were talking about.
I saw that.
There's a lot of disinformation and blah, blah. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Disinformation means that I'm purposefully misleading people. Okay, I haven't gone over the material in 10 years. I haven't read the material in 10 years. I'm going off the top of my head. Plus, I'm infected with this damn virus, all right? We were having a show where we were talking. If you think I got some things wrong, that's one thing, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're telling me that I'm purposefully misleading people, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, that's a completely
because
different
we've
thing.
never purposefully misled anybody about anything. We speak from the heart all the time, and our views and opinions are constantly changing because it's a journey and it's a spiritual gnosis and understanding.
Yeah, somebody told me, I can't believe you two are talking like this on a show that reaches thousands of people. As if we're irresponsible for doing so. It's
talking like what?
Yeah, exactly. We're discussing how we think this reality might be. We take you guys' calls. You tell us what you think it is, and we share a cup of coffee and talk about it. It's not.
In my opinion, that's first rung spirituality. It's unfortunately the flaw of the New Age, which is, they keep you in a state of always trying to get there. You're always just about to ascend. You're always on your path trying to get there. You've never actually gotten there. We have gotten there, completed the loop, and now we're running through our second loop now. So that's the difference that I'm talking about here. And one of the things is sex. When you and I first met, I went through this period where I just felt like I needed to just be abstinent from sex for some reason. It was a spiritual thing that I did for myself.
Same here, yeah.
But it only lasted for a few months. It was to rebalance myself. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know why I was doing it. I just felt like I needed to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But imagine if I lived a life of celibacy with my twin flame. I don't think that that would be a very intimate relationship.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of other intimate things we can get into, but sex is a very big part of any relationship. Sex is a huge part of the human experience. Carnal sex is just as important as tantric spiritual sex. Now, when our natural instincts in our bodies are to go to carnal sex. That's what we're programmed with. That's what we're raised with. I was talking to Lucky
and to
today.
reproduce.
She raised a really good point. You know, one of the things that I think about, and, you know, I hope I don't offend anybody with this, but one of the things I think about when I see people posting stuff on Facebook about celebrities, like this person's a man and that person's a man, I think to myself, why are these people so interested in what's in those people's pants?
Yeah.
That seems a little bit perverted to me.
Why do they care so much?
Why are they so? And Lucky said, you know what it's about? She says it's about getting people to focus on the crotches of celebrities. And I said, oh my God, that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Like that was
sense.
just like, yeah, that was, I think that's the agenda there, is to get people to look at people's crotches. And she even mentioned, she's like, you know, when you see a beautiful woman, you look at her face, you may look at her butt, you may look at her breasts, but you don't stare at her crotch. Most people don't. Like even, you know, growing up when I was the most heathenistic person, you know, and furthest away from spirituality, I wouldn't stare at a woman's crotch. You know, I don't even stare at breast. I mean, I'll look and, you know, but
you'll stare at an ass. Come on, baby.
no, I don't stare. I'm not like, oh.
No, he doesn't stare creepily, but I can tell when he's staring a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
a nice gaze.
I mean, it's
a short
programmed.
gaze is fine.
But here's something for you guys though. All right, so here's what you can do. So you see a nice booty walking down the street. So instead of turning to look at the booty as it's walking away, what you want to do is you want to get down and you want to tie your shoe right at that point where she's about to cross over. And that way you're not actually looking at her booty, but rather you're tying your shoe and your woman is none the wiser. What do you think about that, Mrs. Gio?
That's a lot of trouble to go through because all he has to do is say, oh, that's nice. And I'm like,
no, I know. I'm just kidding. This was actually,
nice.
I saw Dark Matter 2525, one of my favorite YouTubers. He did a video like that in his animation style. And it was like so epic. And it was only up for like 2 days. And I'm sure his wife was like, what the fuck did you put out there? You better take that down. And I haven't seen that video ever since, but I thought it was ingenious. I was like,
that's hilarious.
He's like, that's the way you stare at the booty. And I'm like, nice.
Without getting caught.
Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So I'm getting off topic. So, you know, men are hardwired to look at beauty.
Mm-hmm.
It's natural, but men are usually respectful, and like I don't stare.
No, you don't stare.
And I definitely don't look at a woman's crotch. That's just perverted.
Yeah.
So they've got people trained to constantly look at people's crotches, which goes into that perverted carnal kind of place that we're all programmed from children to fall into. So I can see on one perspective where the New Age says, you know, sex is bad and, you know, all this stuff. And you have like celibacy and Buddhism and Catholicism. But, you know, celibacy and Catholicism wasn't even introduced until the 1500s. Then when it was introduced, you see what happens as a result of that. I mean, you've got like the biggest sex scandals there from these people that are supposed to be celibate. So it just goes to show you're not supposed to suppress these feelings. Instead, you're supposed to master these feelings. You're supposed to harness all aspects of yourself. You're supposed to have control and be the master of your mind, body, and soul. Now, I was in the truther mentality for so long. I lost sight of mastering my body. And as a result, it turned into what it is now. But I'm working on mastering the body too. I was also stuck in this New Age thing where the New Age was, well, it doesn't really matter because it's all about spiritual. I want to disconnect from my body, but still that's not a balance of mind, body, and soul. So the whole idea that sex, we should abstain from sex and be celibate and all that, sure, for small periods of time, that's perfectly fine. But living like that all the time or trying to, I think it's the exact same thing as the veganism agenda, which is to keep you off balance. Mm-hmm. Try quitting anything. It doesn't matter what it is.
Try
sugar,
telling yourself you can't have
Coca-Cola,
something.
whatever.
See how long it lasts.
Right. As soon as you tell yourself, I can't have this anymore, your body is going to go nuts and start craving it. Instead, the way to do it is you give your body less and less and less and less of it.
A little bit less.
And you start having everything in moderation.
Right.
Which includes carnal sex. Sometimes, you just get freaky just for the sake of getting freaky.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's tantric. The tantric sex is a huge part of both the human experience and the spiritual experience too. The ancients knew this. Egypt, Greece, all of these ancient civilizations, they all had two things in common: psychedelic plants and an appreciation for sex and beauty. And these are the two things that the New Age is deathly afraid of. They tell you that that's bad. It's all like Yahweh Christian programming, just repackaged. You're supposed to suffer. You're supposed to abstain from this. Don't eat meat. Don't do this. Don't do that. It's all Catholic bullshit that's being sold as New Age stuff. And you live in a state where you're just miserable. But it's important to balance everything, though, is my point. What do you think? I see you've got some thoughts that you want to get in.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say the whole celibacy thing versus the raging slut thing, all of it is designed to put you in a state where you're imbalanced sexually. And it's not just sexually, it's at that root chakra where
that's a good point.
If they can get that one thing destabilized, that holds up everything else. I mean, it just in a regular NPC, much less an organic being that has this hardware of the kundalini inside of them, and they don't realize it. They're walking around, and the one core element, which is one's sexual response and survival response, reproduction, all of that is so off kilter that everything else is going to crap. That's why people that have either a problem with wanting to be celibate and thinking, oh no, I'm never going to have that connection with anybody ever. And then there's people that are like, oh, I can't have carnal sex. I'm supposed to be a child of God, and I have to, stick to certain positions. I can't go outside of marriage. I can't do this. I can't do that. All of these things are putting people off balance. And so, of course, their stomachs have problems. That solar plexus chakra is all screwed up because I do believe that chakras exist. I don't believe that they're a good thing. I think that they're implants inside of us.
Yeah, I've changed my views a little bit. It's like, again, first level stuff.
Yeah, that is first level stuff.
It's first level. And then you realize, oh, the chakras are part of the machine.
Right.
You realize that there are things that are part of the machine, like your body. Your body's part of the machine. You're not your body. I think everybody would agree with that. But you learn how to be the master of what's in the machine.
Right.
Instead of the slave of what's in the machine.
But you can't even get that far if you can't get your own survival instinct and reproductive instinct under control.
Right.
Somebody was asking us, where's baby Geo? And I'm like, we have a million baby Geos that are, our ideas, our creative ideas that we've put into effect for the last 10 years. That's our children. The brain children of ourselves is what matters. Yeah. To me.
In this life, we're not here to reproduce. We're here to get some shit done. Maybe in another life. We have a daughter in another timeline or another dimension or something. I dream about her all the time. Her name's Lucy. She's an adorable little thing, but she's not here in this timeline because there's more important things to do here. But the point is that these sexual energies are very powerful. And if you don't control them, if you don't master them, they will master you in one form or another. Take that Ted Haggard guy who was in Colorado Springs, and I want to get to Colorado Springs here because somebody asked about the Satanism that goes on there and DIA and all that, so we'll get into that as well. But Ted Haggard, huge mega church, one of the biggest Christian guys, gets caught with a male prostitute doing crystal meth in his hotel room. This is what I'm talking about, trying to suppress these urges. just turns into the exact opposite. You get Catholic schoolgirl syndrome. That's what I call it. When you suppress a young girl for so long, and then she's on Pornhub at 18 or 20 years old, and she doesn't know what the hell she's doing, and she's completely disrespecting her body, perverting her own body, doing all that because she's got all this pent up sexual energy that she doesn't know how to release. And it has to be released in one form or another. Guys, on the other hand, if you don't have an orgasm, men will have orgasms while they sleep because it's fluids that are building up in the body. So that's the first thing, is releasing these fluids. Second thing is the stress and the tension and the de-stressing and all of that. The third thing is the spiritual connection that you have with your partner and the sexual energy that you can manifest and harness during orgasm and leading up to orgasm too. And it's not all about orgasm. Like when Cherie and I play, we'll play for hours sometimes and just, like right at that edging place that it's, you bring it up to the point of orgasm and then you stop. And then you bring it up to the point of orgasm and you stop. And you just go on and on and build up and build up and build up the energy like that. Likewise, sometimes you can do that over the course of multiple days or even weeks and then have that one huge orgasm and put all your intentions into that orgasm that's been being built up over the course of time. That's a very powerful manifestation technique as well. But how are you going to balance the mind, body, and soul if you're denying yourself that very energy and the release that comes with the physical release? I mean, just with men, for example, think about women. Okay, women, when they're pregnant, their breasts fill full of milk. That milk has to be released, otherwise it causes damage to the breasts. So even if the baby's not drinking all the milk, women have to use pumps because they got to get that milk out of there. They got to keep those juices flowing. Same with men and the testicles. So it's important. The first thing, though, and this is something a lot of people don't talk about, and the Catholic Church has talked very, very bad about this and has given it a bad rap: masturbation. It's important to be able to know how to please yourself first before you can please your partner. Because if you don't even know your own body, how the hell are you going to learn somebody else's body? But we're told that that's bad. We're told as children that we're going to get hair on our palms. We're told all kinds of nonsensical
that it's Satanism.
Bullshit.
Because Tanner Chop just said, that's Satanism, Chris. That's what Aleister Crowley talked about.
We can talk about Satanism here in a little bit too. So, that's another topic I want to get into. I got a whole notes here, and Satanism is on the agenda for sure. They're going to take that clip and they're going to run with that.
Satanism is on the agenda for sure, huh?
I can already see it. Yes. Big shout out to all the haters out there.
That one's free.
Yeah. Stick around. You might get a few more too. So,
oh my God.
Anyways, so masturbation is extremely, in my opinion, extremely healthy. God, I don't want to get into our personal sex life too much, but a lot of the times when we play with each other, it's mutual masturbation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or making out and
there's always
playing with
dirty
sex toys and, all kinds of
fantasies
stuff like that. There's a whole broad spectrum of things that encompass the sexual energy. It's not about just, intercourse and just plowing a woman and, things like that. Sometimes it's soft, sometimes it's sweet, sometimes it's feminine, sometimes it's dominating, sometimes it's there's so many different feelings and emotions that encompass all this. And a lot of times, more often than not, it's all spiritual, bringing to the point of orgasm to release that energy to manifest something. And what I found is that when I'm trying to manifest something through sexual energy, through sex magic, the best thing to do is to go in steps. Don't look at the end goal. Look at the next step in order to get to that goal. Focus your energy on that. Then once that manifests, then you focus on the next step after that. Then you focus on the next step after that. Then you focus on the next step after that. And it works so much better that way. And I've seen amazing things happen, manifest in our lives by focusing one step at a time on the goals that we're focusing through sex magic.
We have a question, which is kind of interesting. Rachel said, just don't watch porn, otherwise you open portals.
I don't have an issue with porn.
I don't have an issue with porn either.
What I prefer, and maybe I'm getting a little too personal here, but I prefer women stripping.
Yeah.
I don't like hardcore porn.
Yeah, like borderline porn.
Or, lesbian porn is nice too.
Yeah.
Because it's soft and sensual, and
right.
But there's some lesbian porn that's like, women ramming each other with like huge double-ended dildos and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, it's yeah. I mean, I've seen some where it's like, I feel bad that the woman is disrespecting her body so much.
Right.
And it's like, a good hard sex is great, but it shouldn't be demeaning. It shouldn't be
right.
It shouldn't be degrading. In bed, you're my goddess.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's the right dynamic, which is why I think with me personally, that's why I prefer like women's, I guess erotica is what you would call it.
Yeah, more erotica.
Women in stockings, dancing sexy.
Visual poetry.
The admiration of beauty.
Right.
Or even two women that are sensually touching each other and things like that. But yeah, I guess it just depends on the type of porn, because there's some really sick shit out there.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, I remember
there's stuff that I would never watch.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago there was a little clip called Two Girls in One Cup.
Oh God, no.
I watched that because everybody was talking about it, and I'm like, all right, I want to see what's going on here. Obviously, I wasn't masturbating at the time. I was just watching it just for, morbid curiosity.
Very morbid.
And it did something to me. And like how do I phrase this? I couldn't get an erection for like a week. I swear to God, because that image just kept popping up in my mind. And if anybody doesn't know what it is, it's like two girls and they're defecating in cups and eating it and things like that.
Apparently eating it with like ice cream.
I found the backstory behind it, though.
Ice cream?
It was actually ice cream. It wasn't actually. It was just the illusion of them doing it, and that's the way the guy filmed it. But still, I'm like, oh my God! I like it. It ruined me sexually for at least a week, if not 2 weeks. It was horrid. So there's some depraved shit out there. But that's the thing about the internet. Is Terrence McKenna talked about this. He said, when the internet comes on, you're going to see the best of humanity, and you're going to see the worst of humanity as well.
Right.
And there's some sick, deprived shit out there. So when you say porn opens up a gateway, I can understand where you're coming from for sure. But there's also the appreciation of beauty and things like that I find no problem with whatsoever. As a matter of fact, erotic beauty was something that was part of Egypt. It was part of Greece. A lot of the statues, things like that. The naked body's beautiful, especially the female form. I mean, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous in all shapes and sizes and everything like that. It's just it was made to be beautiful, but it was also made to be respected and worshipped, which a lot of people miss.
Yeah, they tend to forget about that part,
Yeah.
But
I feel a little embarrassed now. I feel like I've said a little bit too much about myself.
Well, about us both, because, I'm right there with you. The thing about the twin flame thing is that usually whatever I'm thinking about, he's thinking about too, and vice versa. And it's actually, a lot of the time, it's me, pushing boundaries. And he's like, okay, I guess if you want to go there. But the thing is, we always do it together. And it feels like it keeps the bond secure when we're together, and not just by ourselves or anywhere else, but with each other. Right.
So let's move on to the sex magic part of it.
Okay.
So what would you tell people as far as sex magic goes?
Manifestation of whatever the heart truly desires, and that it's just like in a video game. What you're doing is you're tapping into energies that will allow you access to just enough of a program to where you can switch things in your direction. Let's say the desire of your heart is that you make more money in your life. You want to be more profitable with your business or something like that. what you do is you are able to, if you've done psychedelics and you know what I'm talking about, you visualize what it is that you want, and then you harness the energy that's wrapped around that event or that longing, and you suck it into yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that CIA document that we were talking about. That's in our archives if you want to go look at that. And the phrase always eludes me. I should look this up again, but it's like imaging or projecting or something like that, where essentially what they talk about is reality is made up of a series of holograms, and you project this hologram into and manifest that hologram into this space here by projecting it up into space.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same premise, whether it's, meditation and manifestation, or, sex magic and manifestation, or even psychedelics and manifestation. Psychedelics, they help me to visualize so much more, because whatever you think of, boom, pops up right there during a psychedelic experience, which is a very, very, very powerful tool for manifestation, which in my opinion is why they keep you away from masturbation, from sex, and from psychedelics. Those are the three that every modern philosophy out there is completely opposed to. The Bible, New Age, Buddhism, literally everything is opposed to all of this. It's a trap. It's a trap to keep you away from that power that's there. I mean, the Bible even talks about magic and all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, anything that gives you any kind of personal power is looked poorly upon. But now that you mention it, psychedelics and sex are two very, very similar things.
Incredibly
similar. Yeah. And my thing is, how can you how can you master this reality and ascend to the next level of consciousness if you're unable to even drink a plant that comes from nature and delve into these realms? I mean, if you can't master the hyperspace realm, then how much consciousness have you actually mastered? How much of a master are you at consciousness if you can't traverse these other realms? So everything is completely and totally backwards. And people say, oh, it's all through meditation and this and that. But, meditation to me has been a way to relax and center myself and, get myself prepared for the journey. It's not the journey. It's to prepare for the journey. But yeah, no, maybe we just have a whole new wave of people that are just like these extra super beings that have superpowers, and that they, don't need any of that. And no sex, no meat, no psychedelics, no nothing like that for me. Then
why are they sometimes the crappiest people you've ever met?
Because they don't have sex and they don't eat meat.
Right.
I mean, think about this. If you went through life with no sex and no meat, you'd have a pretty shitty attitude too. I did. I tried it for a while. I was an asshole.
He did, and he was.
It's balancing the body. It really is. I mean, I'm being serious when I say this, ladies and gentlemen. Meat creates testosterone within men. You have a testosterone deficiency when you don't eat meat. Same with sex. If you're not having sex, you have a deficiency in your chemical makeup. You've got to get those juices flowing. You've got to let the blood flow. You've got to let everything flow and release and all of this. If anything is laying stagnant at any point in time, there's something wrong. If your blood lays stagnant, you get a stroke because you've got a clot somewhere and your blood's not flowing right.
If your pee stays stagnant in your bladder, then you get a bladder infection.
Yes.
And then you get kidney stones too.
Everything. It has to flow. This world is about ebb and flow and ebb and flow.
It's just like when they dammed up the Nile. They got a host of all kinds of other problems besides just economic woes from having to rebuild their houses every year. It was a lot worse than just that. They got diseases that they had never ever seen before because the Nile would keep the mosquitoes at a level that they knew when they were coming. They knew how to fight them, and then they would go away. They never went away, and then they brought new diseases with them when they were in that stagnant Nile water for so long.
That's a good point. Water is a perfect example. When it's stagnant, it goes bad. We are water. We can't be stagnant.
Yep.
I mean, just lay around on the couch. Lay around on the couch, see what happens to you. That's what happened to me for a while.
You start growing mushrooms under your armpits and stuff.
Yep. I mean, even the computer. I was on the computer 10, 12, 15 hours a day for years. it almost destroyed me. In that house that we were at on top of that, couple it with the energy that we were experiencing there. We had leaky faucets and mold building up in the basement, and probably sewer gas coming out of the toilet because there was a problem with all that. I mean, it was horrid. As soon as we got out of that environment, changed things. I started going to the gym. I started doing this. I started doing that. I feel like I'm on fire. Like I went and plowed the driveway. I went and I worked out, came home, plowed the driveway, went to go check the mail. The mailman was like, "Hey, I'm not going to deliver the mail here unless somebody takes care of all this pile of snow that's in front of the community mailboxes." And I'm like, "All right, cool." Went and got my shovel, plowed that too, and just thought to myself, you know what? I'm probably losing 800 calories by doing this and helping the entire neighborhood out. Let's do it. I was on fire.
Yeah, it was awesome.
The only thing that smacked me upside the head was this damn virus that we've been
whatever
dealing
the
with.
hell this thing is.
That is worldwide. That I think we should get into here briefly. So,
Yes.
I was talking to a couple of people on the Terrence McKenna forum today, and they were asking about what we did in Egypt and the pyramid activation. So when the pyramid was activated, it started to heat up. Clyde Lewis actually wanted to have us on a show, but we didn't get to connect with Ron until several weeks after it. But he wanted us to talk about the heating up of the pyramid, which happened back in August, that several media outlets covered, which was part of this activation. Other sites are activating as well, and that includes some that are buried under the ice. Well, what happens when the ice starts to melt? We start to get a polar vortex that is going all around the world, literally. And that's what global warming does. A lot of people think that global warming causes it to get hotter. Doesn't happen first. First, it gets cooler because all that ice is melting and all that cold air is being released. That
trapped air is
through everywhere.
Unleashed.
Yeah. Global warming is very real, but it's not man-made.
No.
So that's the most important thing here, is to understand that it's not man-made. I feel like we talked about this on the last show, but anyway, so I'll try to skip forward.
It's a natural thing.
So this virus is, in my opinion, an ancient virus. It's a virus that's been trapped in the ice, maybe for the purpose of being released when the ice was melting. I don't know if it was intentionally put there or if it was something that just happened to freeze over. But it's hitting everywhere throughout the entire world. It's killing off a lot of the AI bugs, like the stink bug population. Remember, we were overrun by stink bugs at that other place.
Oh, yeah. I think we caught a few on the show.
We did. And we would have a swarm that would come every single year. And they would cover the houses in our area. I mean, it was just stink bugs covering the entire outer walls.
It's like locusts.
Yeah. So it's not like, our house was dirty and then, you get roaches and things like, no. These things were freaking invading en masse. The polar vortex is killing them off. Another interesting thing that's happening during this reset, because this is all part of the reset here, there are at least a dozen species that I've seen over the last week, people posting on Facebook, that are extinct species that are resurfacing.
Oh, wow.
People are finding animals that they thought went extinct 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 100 years ago, and here they are just popping up. I don't know how to explain that, but I can say this. The system is a video game. That's the best language that we have to describe it.
Yeah.
The system was programmed at the very fundamental base level to maintain the reality and to maintain the illusion for the players. So we can't have huge system changes that just happen like that. It would wake all the players up. And we want all the players to wake up right now. I mean, that's the whole name of the game. But the fundamental way that it was built up was to prevent that from happening. And so it's not really a possibility that can happen. There's error correcting code within the system. And this is what Professor Gates talks about. And I need to write him back and schedule a show with him. He's an awesome guy. He doesn't agree with our hypothesis, but he's an awesome guy. But he found a self-correcting computer code within string theory, within the fabric of space-time. It's a self-correcting computer code because a paradox can't be allowed within the matrix. Because if you have a paradox, it just jolts people's consciousness. I mean, who knows? Maybe it can even fry the consciousness of the players because it's such a shock to the consciousness to say, hey, wait a minute. It's like going down to the depths of the ocean and coming back up too quickly. You get the bends. Yeah. Yeah. It could be damaging to the consciousness as far as that goes. So there's too many NPCs on the board. We've discussed this. Everybody would agree with that. I don't think anybody is disputing that whatsoever. They talk about depopulation agendas and all kinds of stuff like that. But I think this virus was there as part of the reset, and it's going to take out a lot of people. It's going to be way underreported because it's not something that they created. It's not a problem, reaction, solution kind of deal. It's a legitimate catastrophe, quote unquote, a catastrophe. But I think it's something that's part of the reset that needs to happen. So I think, unfortunately, we're going to see some deaths from this thing, or maybe this is the beginning of something bigger that's to come. And here's what's happening, is our bodies are now becoming immune to whatever this virus is because we're going through it. I mean, yeah, I felt like shit for 2 weeks, but I wasn't in the hospital. Mm-hmm. You weren't in the hospital.
No.
Everybody I've talked about felt like shit for 2 weeks. They don't go to the hospital because we're upgrading. And so we're becoming stronger by taking this on, by withstanding this. So it's okay. We are withstanding it, and it's fine, and it's part of all of this. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if it's also part of the reset too, and bringing things back to balance. I really feel like it is. I mean, we told people when we got back from Egypt, the messages were very clear. The next 4 years are going to be the reset. The next 4 years is where we're going to see the changes. And that's exactly what's happening. I mean, we are seeing the changes. There's no denying this.
But what if this first set of viruses, because I went to get a heart test done this week, and the guy doing the heart test on me was wearing a mask. Mm-hmm. He'd been sick for the past
Everybody's
week.
Been sick.
They were out of masks at the hospital in 2 places, completely out of masks. That means at least 500 people had gone in there and been sick coming in. That's a lot for a small city like this. That's a pretty good number of people that are sick. That alone tells me that people are getting sick, and it doesn't seem to be just one virus or one this or one that. It seems to be like a locust swarm effect of different viruses and bacteria that we haven't been involved with for probably thousands or tens of thousands of years. Yeah. And so these
flu shots aren't working.
No, nothing's
Nobody
really
who's
working.
Been inoculated has averted this thing.
No.
And the thing is, it's worldwide. Right. It's literally world fucking wide.
Right. So I think it's the beginning of something that's going to get worse and worse and worse. And our job basically is to keep up with the onslaught of it, process things correctly, build up immunity to all these things. And as they, keep happening more and more, they get a little bit harder and a little bit harder and a little bit harder. But pretty soon we're going to have immune systems of steel because we're going to be so good at killing viruses within us.
Somebody in the chat, Windhammer, said, aren't we all tired of these people spraying the shit out of our atmosphere? Constant spraying in Texas. Yeah, they are constantly spraying. And I think, now that I really think about it, I think it really does have to do with global warming. They're trying to block out radiation from the sun because that's what barium and aluminum do. They block out radiation. And didn't you say that you came across a children's book at one point many, many, many years ago that said that they're spraying sunscreen in the sky?
Yeah. It was one of, it was a children's science book. It was a science textbook for an elementary school. And they said it's sunscreen for the sky. Right.
Yeah. So I think it has to do with that because, they're trying to do something about the global warming. But the thing is, it's not coming from the outside. It's coming from the inside. It's a natural cycle of Earth. We just need to just roll with it and just go with it. But they're trying to profit as much as they can off of it with carbon taxes and things like that. I mean, I see all these people pushing for carbon tax and they don't realize carbon tax is going to equal like $6 a gallon gasoline. That's what a carbon tax is. It's a tax on your freaking gasoline, which is going to cause the prices of everything to go up because everything is based on gasoline because you've got to move goods, you've got to move products, you've got to get service people to places. I mean, literally everything is based on fuel.
And it's not going to just hurt big business for something like that to get passed. It's going to hurt everybody.
It's not going to hurt big business at all.
No.
It's going to raise the prices of everything.
Right. So they're going to make more money.
It's going to hurt people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I'm adamantly opposed against the climate change legislation, and Trump is as well. He backed out of that Paris climate change summit because it was a bunch of bullshit. It's all a bunch of bullshit. But there's something really happening to change the atmosphere here on Earth, and we're seeing the results of it. But I just see it from a much bigger and much more ethereal part. But are they spraying viruses in the chemtrails? You know, that's one of the big conspiracies, and I don't know if they are, but I know they're spraying barium and aluminum for sure. Now, we talked about this on the last show, the possibility of Project Bluebeam, and how the Project Bluebeam also calls for a sheet of barium and aluminum to be sprayed in the sky, so satellites from space can project holographic images into that blanket of barium and aluminum. It could be twofold. It could also be that the barium and aluminum is weakening the immune system and making people sick.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
I mean, it could all be
course.
working together here. But intentionally spraying viruses, I don't think so.
I don't think they would do that for the one reason where it's uncontrollable, and they could very easily hit themselves with it. You know, you don't have a weapon unless you can control where that shot's going to end up.
Yes, but you know what Lucky told me today too? We had a 2-hour conversation. It was freaking awesome. She said that one of her friends went to go get a flu shot. They got the flu shot, or one of her family members or something
No,
like
it
that.
was somebody she worked with.
Somebody she worked with.
Mm-hmm.
They went and got the flu shot. Then they got a bill from their insurance, or from their doctor, about the flu shot. The flu shot that they got wasn't covered by the insurance because it was about 10 times more expensive than the regular flu shot. Mm-hmm. So what she was saying was that there's 2 different flu shots.
Yeah.
One for the plebes and one for the rich people.
We know they do that with the MMR vaccine. You know that, right?
I didn't know this until today.
They have a separate vaccine for privately insured children. Then they have the crappy vaccine with a ton of mercury in it and all the preservatives that you could ever want.
Motherfuckers.
For the kids on Medicaid. Yeah.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they could actually have a vaccine that works.
Yeah, they could have a vaccine.
But they're giving people vaccines that are killing them.
Right. And they're giving certain populations, the ones that are basically playing by all the rules. You know, they pay their own way and they, you know, have great jobs at multi-million-dollar companies. They get the good vaccine. So they're not sick.
Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some changes, but you know, here's the thing about organic consciousness is that we're here for a mission, and because we're here for a mission, we're basically invincible. I mean, unless you just fall off your path so far out, as I've said before, time and time again, you're going to be here until it's finished. Mm-hmm. Nothing's going to get in your way. You have to walk in that path, though. You have to walk in your gnosis. You have to walk in your truth. You have to walk in your destiny and dharma.
Yep.
Everybody has a different one. So.
Yep. I mean, they're trying to keep, I think when it all boils down to it, stuff like that is to keep people that are organic, but that are born in a disadvantaged position in life, keep them at that level. You know, don't ever wake up. Don't ever, you know, do well in your life. And then likewise, you know, for people who are organic, who are born into affluence, they build up the cerebral abilities and steer them away from anything spiritual.
Yeah.
Because to let them get involved in spiritual matters would be to lose control over them at some point. If you keep them where the mind is consistently focused on schoolwork, on science, on mathematics, on, you know, on all of these other things that are totally cerebral, they don't have time to look into spirituality. So, yep.
It's a lot more sinister than anticipated. However, you know, I know this isn't a popular view, but I see things from a outside perspective. You know, let's take a look outside looking in. You got way too many NPCs on the board. Oh, this is the point I was getting to, too. You can't have this sudden change where just a bunch of people disappear. That's too much of a change within the matrix itself.
Too many butterflies to step on with that.
Yeah, you just can't have the system just say, okay, we're going to delete, half the population, and then boom, they just disappear. That's why rapture events, ascension events, all that, it's bullshit. It doesn't work. You have to have some kind of physical action that removes the players from the board or changes things up. Every once in a while we get glitches though, like Mandela effects. And I think what happens during Mandela effects is we go to sleep and there's system updates that are sent to the brain, organic and NPC alike. And more often than not, the system changes. When the system changes something, the updates don't take to certain people. So it's not that other people are coming from different dimensions, but rather other people aren't having their memories changed, or they're resisting the updates. You know, that's one of my big things. The New Age is always talking about, oh, we're going to be upgraded and we're going to, you know, oh, there's a portal that's opening on this day and we're going to pass through this radiation field and we're going to get a download and this and that. And I'm like, I don't want any of that. I want to remember exactly what this matrix is, who I am, where I come from. I don't want any kind of external interference here. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to minimize the amount of external interference and influence and go more internally to operate internally instead of externally. Instead of things coming out into me, it's me inside going outwards and projecting outwards instead. It's the complete opposite of the way I see things, but I'm very apprehensive of all this stuff. But I think that's why some people remember Berenstein, others people remember Berenstain, because some people got the update, other people didn't.
Yeah.
But it's always been Berenstein from the very beginning, but it changed and it
got updated to Berenstain.
For one reason or another, because of the butterfly. It's not like the Matrix had to change Berenstein.
No.
Berenstein was the result of something else being changed. King Tut.
Oh, shit.
King Tut. Let's get into King Tut on the other side. I'm going to take a quick break.
Okay.
This thing is huge, ladies and gentlemen, and I should have posted this on Facebook first to get people's opinions. And hopefully, here's what I'll do. Okay, so everybody pay attention real quick in the chat room, especially on YouTube. All right. Without looking it up. Oh, yeah, Brent said my mic is clipping a little bit. I think I have my compressor a little bit funky here tonight, so let me see if I can fix this. So there it is clipping again. What the hell's going on? All right. So without looking it up. All right. I think there we go. Without looking it up. Almost clipped. All right. I like to be able to talk loud and I like to be able to talk soft. And a compressor setting should allow me to do all that. But our freaking mixer got fried and I lost all my presets in my mixer and I just haven't gone back to like really fine tune it again. But anyways, okay. So without looking it up, ladies and gentlemen, tell me this in the chat room and Facebook as well. How did King Tut die? What age was he? And what did his headdress look like? We'll take a quick break. We'll talk about that on the other side because things have changed. Not only did his headdress change, but the way he died and the age that he died at changed too. I think that event might explain one of the major things why we're seeing residuals of the Mandela effect. And I can tell you this, when we go activate the other site, we're going to see many more Mandela effects if what I believe we need to do, it gets done. So on that note, we will be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you even further beyond the veil.
a traveler. The purpose of your consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges. Create happiness. And bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together. And that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise, honor your conductors, and fear no danger, as you step beyond the veil.
All right. I clipped it again. Why is this clipping? I've got my compressor set right. This is ridiculous. So, I'm going to really have to spend some time working on this later to get the optimal sound here. Anyways, hopefully it sounded loud and clear for everybody. And back to the subject of King Tut. So, Cherie, I don't know. I guess let's go through the chat room first.
Okay.
So some people are saying that King Tut died at 13. Others are saying that he died at 12. Others are saying died 13 to 18. Somebody said around 14. Others say dead at 19. Somebody said something like 12. Somebody said died at 5, but I think the guy is just taking a piss, as they say in the UK.
Yeah.
14. Okay.
So
the general consensus, I would say, is that he died at the age of 14, 13, 14, around that age.
Yeah.
And he died of being sick or poisoning.
And I just told somebody about 6 months ago that I was talking to in a private message, and I said, yeah, he was poisoned when he was like 13, 14 years old, and he was poisoned just the same. It was a different kind of poison than his father. His father had been poisoned, and it was more like an arsenic preparation, and so it killed him pretty quickly. But somebody was poisoning Tut for a period of several months. And so that's why he would come to the brink of death and then get better again, and then he'd go to the brink of death again and get better again. So he was poisoned too.
Okay. Now, Tut's headdress. People say they don't remember what's on Tut's headdress. We got a few responses as far as Tut's headdress. Rachel Adams here, she said 13 as well. I don't see anybody commenting on the headdress. Rachel says he was murdered. Rachel Adams said he was murdered. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
Because you are 100% spot on with my memory and past life memory, too. I was involved in a past life of murdering him at 13. I specifically remember this. It's something I've talked about before. I've unlocked this. This has always been our history. His headdress was the cobra. Always has been the cobra. Something's changed. Tut has now died at 19. Let me repeat that. King Tut, even though...
17.
No, 19. I just read 19 the other day. Look it up, please. Let's get this information accurate. But 19 is what I read.
Okay, yeah, 19.
Okay.
You're right.
19.
I stand corrected.
And his headdress always had the cobra. Let me zoom in on this. His headdress now has the cobra, and it has the vulture, which is symbolic of Hathor. Hathor,
the mother goddess.
The mother goddess is the vulture that replenishes. Tut was named after Thoth. That's where Tut comes from. Thoth symbol is the cobra. Thoth is a cobra. The vulture was never there. As a matter of fact, the Egyptians were so specific about beauty, so specific about strength. Everything was always symmetrical. All of their stuff was made perfect, geometric symmetry, gorgeous signs, even lining monuments up to the stars. There is no way that they would design a headdress that is so unsymmetrical like this that features the buzzard and the cobra at the same time. And the fact, like Rachel, for example, remembers it exactly the way I do, that he was murdered at 13. Now all of a sudden he dies at 19 from a virus or something like that. Now, it could be argued that he was poisoned. And so it could be, the cause of death could have been, well, he died, because he was sick. Yeah, sure, poisoning. That's the way we killed him. We poisoned him. And we needed to back then. But something changed. I think that might be one of the events that changed that is causing the Mandela effect.
Mm-hmm. And that would cause quite a Mandela effect throughout the centuries. If let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Tut was starting to turn his back on the AI monotheistic Aten, that his father had forced everybody to go along with worshiping solely and getting rid of all the other gods and goddesses. He might have been thinking about going back to the old days of bringing the gods and goddesses back into their former glory again. We're not worshiping, but holding up the perfection of consciousness as the religion of Egypt instead of this monotheistic deity.
Ghost in the Machine. Ghost in the Machine just got back. Yeah.
That's why somebody else had to get to him.
Tut died at 19, and he now wears the cobra and the vulture.
Mm-hmm. And that would tell me that he would be getting back into the goddesses culture, instead of just this God monotheism, the Aten, it's the sun. It's basically worshiping the sun.
I remember this life. Frank was there with us.
Mm-hmm.
They nailed me to a fucking tree.
Over it.
They put Frank in a fucking cave and left him there. I don't remember what he told me, but he remembers this life too. We were all there.
Oh yeah.
We were all part of this.
Me and this other girl remember it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
we were tortured horrendously for what we did.
I just did.
And now it changed to 19.
Work. Yep.
Here's my theory. It's crazy, but this is beyond the veil.
Way beyond the veil.
So, this next activation site, as I've talked about before, I'm not going to say where, I'm not going to say when, because it's important, because there's a lot of malevolent forces that have been marshaled to try to stop what's going on. Nick Bravo is right when he says don't tell anybody. It's my instinct not to tell anybody about this next site. And I wish I could share more with you guys and gals. But it was the same with Egypt. We couldn't say anything until literally the week we were leaving. I mean, it was crazy. Like, we just gambled on everything and just threw all our money in the pot and said, we got to go do this. And luckily, all the BTV family stepped in and made donations in the GoFundMe. They bought Aya Life. Aya Life turned out to work phenomenal for people. AYALife.com. It's a CBD oil that's infused with the ayahuasca vine, a recipe that I got from hyperspace, and people have been raving about it. It's been working phenomenally for everybody.
Well, somebody told us
incredible
just the other day, and he's tried hundreds of them because he's part of a group that tests out products like this, and then reviews them. He said, "No, it's the best I've tasted."
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Awesome. Hopefully he'll review it and put it online and stuff like that. Somebody posted a testimonial on YouTube the other day.
Nice.
It's just because they wanted to share their experience with people.
We put that on the website.
Yeah, Aya Life, AYALife.com. You got to check it out. It funds BTV and it just helps to rebalance the body big time.
Yeah, it does.
But anyways, so with Aya Life and the GoFundMe, we were able to do what we did in Egypt, and we didn't have to worry about money. Everything was taken care of. All the doors opened. Everything came perfectly together. This next site is going to be a similar type of deal. And I mean, it's like people are instinctively sending donations now going towards that. But this next site, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope this doesn't sound too crazy, and it probably does. I mean, I feel silly saying it. Really, I do.
Beyond the veil.
But there's an element of time travel that needs to be done at this next site. I know this. This next site is a time travel portal. The portal that we created in the Great Pyramid went out into the 13th density, which is kind of like an in-between density with a control panel. This next site allows access to other sites, but also other times as well. So you can go forwards, backwards in time, and you can go to other sites. I think this next site, we're going to have to physically go to Egypt, ancient Egypt, and do something. What are we going to do? I don't know. It hasn't been revealed yet, but intuitively what I'm picking up, and this was before I found this revelation about Tut. You and I were just talking about this, and then I happened to stumble across this because I started looking up, okay, I really need to understand who Tut is. But I remember it. I think we need to go back and undo that murder. Because I think you're right. I think that we acted in haste, changed the timeline, when we could have had an opportunity for him to take the reins and bring things back to balance. And I think that's why he died at 19 now. Because he did start bringing things back to balance. We changed it and we turned him from the dark side into the light side and moving things in the right direction. But it still happened at 19. So one of two things. Either we've already done this and we've already gone back, but now we're running through the time before we even get to the event that we actually go back. Or we have to go back again and try to stop this again.
Right.
Because it happened too early again. You know, Hatshepsut was ours, 100%. She was our last hope. She was supposed to. She was kind of Egypt's
last chance.
She was supposed to fix things, and she did, and at the end, she just became fucking paranoid and just turned on everybody. And it was such a travesty. But her temple, though, was buried, I think, on purpose. I don't think it was ever used. You know, they say it was a burial site. They say it was a university, but no, it was built and then buried for the purpose of being an energy source for later on when it was excavated. Göbekli Tepe was buried on purpose. That's what scientists are saying now. But the Temple of Hatshepsut, remember we got there and we were like, hey, it's an energy conductor. It's a recharging station. We played our phones there for 4 hours. We played our music for 4 hours. We look at all of our devices and it's still 100% charged 4 hours later. We're recharged at Hatshepsut's temple because, oh my God, Giza just sucked the energy out of us. It was horrid.
We were only there for a couple of days and it sucked everything out of us. I mean, the Nile, when we went to that place on the River Nile, that was a little bit of a reprieve, but we didn't get our batteries recharged until we actually went to the Temple of Hatshepsut in Luxor, which getting there was, I mean, we had to get on a plane. We had to, go through all kinds of stuff to get there. But once we did, it was just recharged. And then we went to the Temple of Isis at Philae. That wasn't just a recharging. That was a top it off with an experience that walked us through what we had to do at the Great Pyramid.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting not one site or two sites or three sites, but I'm suggesting that we hit several sites when we go down to where we're going.
We are going to hit several sites.
Yeah.
There's several sites waiting for us.
Right.
I just don't know if it needs to be each of us at a site at the same time, because there's 3 on the team this time. Or if it needs to be all 3 at each site. She's gonna reveal everything.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what happened. And you know what? It's funny because I was talking to somebody today, and I said, I went to the Temple of Isis and in the inner sanctum when we did our ceremony there. She showed me everything, and then I said, you know what? I take that back. She didn't actually show me anything. I remembered. It was already inside of me. She was just there just to kind of hold my hand and say, hey, don't be scared. Mama's here. I'm going to walk you through this. You're going to get all the way to the end. Don't worry about it. And at the pyramid, we were by ourselves. I mean, they were around us, Sekhmet, Isis, and all that, but they had to create the firewall because once that portal was open, holy shit, there were hundreds of entities that wanted to hijack and jump up there. They were safeguarding that. They couldn't come and guide the experience. There was nobody with me going up to that 13th density. There was nobody in the portal though, too, which was the whole point. It's like, all right, you got to go. And that's what she was showing me. She's like, hey, I'm going to hold your hand here, but in real time, it was like a simulation at the Temple of Isis. It was like a practice run.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And she's like, okay, I'm going to show both of you what to do so that when you get there, you're not completely clueless as to what needs to happen.
And Hatshepsut, too. I mean, when you went to Amenti, it was horrifying for me because I watched you die in front of me. Yeah,
but you acted as the grounding element that kept the body going while the spirit left and came back.
Right, and it was a lesson for both of us. Like, okay, I need to tell you to ground. You need to see what it's like when you go there. So when you see me in that state in the sarcophagus, you don't freak out and try to pull me out of that state.
Right.
You can do what you need to do to hold the ground, hold the space, while my body's shaking, while my heart is stopping, all of that, knowing that, don't worry, I got you tethered. Stay up there as long as you need to. Come back. I got you. It was fucking phenomenal how it all worked. I mean,
everything happened the way it was supposed to.
So this next site, I'm a little apprehensive about. I mean, I have to admit, I guess I can admit something. I was scared of the pyramid. I really was.
I was scared too.
Leading into it, I was like, I'm not coming back from this. I felt it. And it was like this voice, like, you know why you're fucking around? Because the pyramid is coming. Because the pyramid is coming and you're doing whatever you can to avoid that.
To get out of it.
Postpone it.
Yeah.
But what's funny is once I went through it, there was nothing to fear.
Yeah.
It was all in my mind.
Yeah.
But
that's how it always is.
I have balls of steel, but I do have to also deal with the fear feelings that I have to deal with and put to the side. Everybody experiences that. I think it's okay too, as long as you deal with it. Now, if the fear was to overcome, it would have just destroyed this 1,000-year-old plan, 10,000-year-old plan. But anyways, we're getting into some deep shit, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is like some hardcore stuff. So yeah, time travel is going to play a part in this. And if you would have told me this 10 years ago, I would have said you're fucking crazy. And I feel crazy talking about it.
I told you some things about 10 years ago, and you said I was crazy.
Yeah, I know. You recognized who I was way before I did. He called me by my real name, and I said, oh, but she must be tripping really hard. And then it's like, no, that's who you are. I'm like, okay. And then it was a remembering. It's like, oh, fuck, I remember now. I remember. And then at Abydos, I had forgotten about all the dark things we did.
Yeah.
And then I remembered at Abydos.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, shit. Anyways, I feel like we need to take a break.
Yeah.
We need to rebalance ourselves here for a second.
And when we get back, what should we talk about?
We'll figure it out during the break.
Okay.
All right.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Al.
I'm interrupting. Thought you might be running low. It's not the best plan. Thank you. I'm afraid you missed it all. People wasted it without comprehension. Your question depends on your understanding. What you have to achieve by coming here with all to achieve was to meet our maker. Give me a set. I mean, appears in the first place. What do you think your people may need? It's just good. But you know, according to them, they do the same thing with your creatures.
and circumscribe your desires. As we travel upon the level of time, to that undiscovered state of consciousness, traveling to a place where once attained, no time returns. The place of your consciousness which awaits us when we are past.
All right, let's jump back into it, change the subject a little bit, something a little bit lighter. We'll get more into this as more Gnosis unfolds. And, we've got a whole ton of tools. We just had tools just come out of the woodworks for us. And so we have the ability to really just spend a lot of time really focusing and getting more answers from within ourselves and on what the next stages of this whole journey is. And, so yeah, let's switch the topic here. I want to talk about a couple things going on in the chat. Aleister Crowley. I don't know anything about Aleister Crowley. I've never read any of his material. I've heard a couple of things. I know every man and every woman is a star. I love that. Love shall be the whole of the law. Love that line too. They say that he talks about sex magic in the terms of unlocking the Kundalini through anal sex, which I think is disgusting. And supposedly it's with young boys. I don't know how much validity this has, though, because I've never actually seen the text for myself. A lot of people like to throw out his name like he was this, evil person, and he very well could have, or maybe not. I'm sure that when we're gone, people are going to throw around our names as if we're this really, really, really evil people, because up is down, left is right, and things are completely and totally backwards. Now, I had a very interesting discussion with somebody today, and they were talking about the Baphomet statue. That statue in Chicago that they're putting up. And the question was, does the Satanic Church have a right to erect the statue? And I said, yeah, absolutely they do. We have freedom of religion. It's a religion. It's a federally recognized religion. Of course, they have just as much right as every other religion does. Now, I'm not into religions. I think that any kind of belief system is nothing more than BS. I mean, you even have it in the name, belief system. But then I came across an interesting article, too, from the BBC that actually broke down what the Baphomet stands for. The pose like this means as above, so below. Mm-hmm. It's an androgynous creature because it's the feminine and the masculine together.
Yeah. The
goat head, as we've talked about before, the satanic ram's head, is the woman's uterus. We've done many shows about this before. And I said, the Bible is one of the most evil books in existence. If you really read it, there's a lot of evil and a justification of evil. Kill babies, take sex slaves. People see the word virgin and think of, a 25-year-old girl that's a virgin. But no, a virgin back then was like 6 years old, 7 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old. Mary, the mother of Jesus, was somewhere between 11 and 13, while Joseph was 70. A lot of people dismiss all this stuff in Christianity and at the exact same time say that everything else is evil. It's programming, it's brainwashing. So I remember as a child, I was passing by a bookstore. I used to read a lot of Stephen King, and I used to go to the bookstore and buy books that were like 50 cents, $1, and things like that. It was a used bookstore. And I remember passing by the Satanic Bible, and I remember going, oh my God, and just, freaking out like that. And it wasn't until like 35 years later that I actually said, you know what, enough is enough of this shit. I want to know what the hell's going on. And I picked it up and I read it. I didn't read it in full because I'm not really into that. I don't care about that. But I realized that Satanism actually has a superior moral code than Christianity. It really does. Now, this is LaVey Satanism. There very well could be other satanic rituals where you slaughter goats and all this, but goat slaughtering is in the Bible. Christianity is built upon a human sacrifice. It's right there, plain as day. I mean, Jesus was sacrificed on the cross. all these things that are being accused of all this. So I said, Satanism actually has a superior moral code than Christianity. So I just want to give you an example here and a caveat. I have not read the entire Satanic Bible. For all I know, the very next page after this tells you about how to rape children and take their blood and sacrifice animals and all this stuff. And it could be the most horrendous book in the world. I don't know. But here's the 11 Satanic rules of the earth as told by Anton LaVey in the Satanic Bible. And please, ladies and gentlemen, tell me which one you don't agree with. Number 1, do not give opinions or advice unless you're asked. Number 2, do not tell your troubles to others unless you are sure they want to hear them. Number 3, when in another's lair, show him respect, or else do not go there. Number 4, if a guest in your lair annoys you, treat him cruelly and without mercy. That sounds a little bit harsh, but when you take number 3 into consideration here, show him respect or else do not go there. Well, if you're following the tenets here, if you're in another person's lair and you're not showing him respect, then obviously refer to number 4, which is if somebody annoys you or disrespects you. I think this would have been better worded as disrespect instead of annoying. Treat him cruelly and without mercy. Do not make sexual advances unless you are giving the mating signal, which means don't harass women. Do not take that which does not belong to you unless it is a burden to the other person and he cries out to be relieved. So don't take shit that's not yours unless the other person is like, hey, look, I really need this off my hands. Can you take it off my hands for me? Acknowledge the power of magic if you have employed it successfully to obtain your desires. If you deny the power of magic after having called upon it with success, you will lose all you have obtained. Do not complain about anything to which you need not subject yourself. So don't complain about shit that is irrelevant to your life, which is what everybody does on Facebook. The Trump administration is doing this and the LGBT is doing this and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, does it have anything to do with your direct sphere? If not, don't freaking complain about it. Nobody wants to hear it. Number 9 is the big one here that is not in the Bible. Do not harm little children. Mm-hmm. Simple. It doesn't say don't sexually abuse children. It doesn't say don't physically abuse children. It doesn't say don't slap children. It says do not harm little children. Period. That means that it's encompassing the entire spectrum of what can be done to a child. It doesn't matter whether it's verbal abuse, sexual abuse, torture, or rape, etc. It's right there in the Satanic Bible. Mm-hmm. Holy crap. Do not kill non-human animals unless you are attacked or for food. Don't go hunting for sport. When walking in open territory, bother no one. But if somebody bothers you, ask him to stop. Hey, step away, please. If he does not, destroy him. A little harsh, I agree. But it's like, when you're walking, if somebody's bothering you, ask, hey, can you please just back off? Just leave me alone. Please, leave me alone. Okay, you're going to continue to fuck with me? All right, I'm going to show you my strength. I can't find anything that I disagree with here, except for the title of Satanism. Of course, I disagree with the title of Satanism. Yes. But can you please tell me, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? What's bad here? Is that do not harm little children? Is that like a problem with people? Don't kill non-human animals unless you're attacked for food or for food. Is it like, the hunting?
Duck Sauce said, what about big children? Fair game?
I guess big children are fair
children,
game.
adults.
I don't know.
Let's, that sounds really purgy.
I just found it very interesting. Now, I'm not promoting these ideas whatsoever.
No, I'm not promoting we're not promoting anything. What we're doing is we're looking beyond the veil.
Just looking at things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I'm reading about King Tut, and while you've been going on your rant.
Okay.
And it said he reversed several changes made during his father's reign. He ended the worship of the god Aten and restored the god Amun to supremacy. The ban on the cult of Amun was lifted and traditional privileges were restored to its priesthood. The capital was moved back to Thebes, and the city of Akhenaten abandoned.
See, this didn't happen in the timeline.
No,
that we came from.
no, it did not.
No,
I remember
he was going full force.
his name wasn't Tutankhamun; it was Tutankhaten. And I remember it still being Tutankhaten for a long time. I don't know when this was done, but something happened that prevented him from being poisoned, and it also pushed him to make these changes. And so the people that wanted to go back to the way it was when his father was around, they killed him the second time at 19.
See, this is just adding to my hypothesis that we initially murdered him at 13, just like a lot of people remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then we made a mistake, changed him. He started to change in the right direction, and he was murdered by other forces that were trying to push it. So it's like time changed, but then went back to the point of the quickest and most efficient way of going back to the way it was before the manipulation of the timeline. So the timeline was manipulated at the age 13. Everything started going in a different direction, but then at 19, the timeline merged back into what it was originally. So it begs the question, like, can you even alter time in that vast, great sense? Which brings me to a question that somebody asked here earlier. I don't remember who it was in the chat, but they asked, what's this self-correcting computer code? And I don't know. That's what I want to get Professor Gates on, because I really want him to explain what the self-correcting computer code is. But I suspect that the self-correcting computer code is to resolve paradoxes.
Issues of paradox.
Which is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Throw a pebble into a stream, and
black hole into a galaxy,
and the water will move around the pebble but go back to its regular formation as quickly as possible. So changing the timeline was throwing a pebble into the stream, but time just diverged back into
it's just going to go back to its original place.
So something greater has to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. Secret School said, I don't know about the time travel thing, and yeah, I don't either.
Yeah,
bro.
we don't either.
I mean, that's why I say I feel silly talking about it, but I watched Cherie time travel her physical body the other day.
Yeah, that was cool.
For the people that are just joining us, the progression went like this. The message was: get your body in shape, get your mind in strength, get your mind strong, get your spirit in strength. Everything has to be at top freaking optimal positioning for this next optimal performance for this next site.
Optimal performance there
Which up until that point I was like, well, if I spend 3 hours in the gym every day, it's just going to be vanity, and I'm perfectly healthy. Yeah, I can do that, but I have more important things to do with Beyond the Veil, with TFR, with IA Life, all that. And then I heard this call: you better go right now and get your shit in order. And 2019 came around, and boom, it was like, okay, now I've got a reason to go do this. So it started with that, and then the revelations, and then during our MDMA experience, which I didn't think MDMA would provoke this.
Me either.
Cherie disappeared in the bed. Like I could see her outline, but I could see through the bed. Like all of a sudden her molecular structure decomposed, and I could see the sheets, and I thought it was just in my own mind, didn't think anything of it. Oh, cool, part of the trip. MDMA is not very psychedelic, but it does have some psychedelic properties to it, and I just figured, okay, well, my eyes are shifting, maybe my left eye is picking up the bed and it's merging it with my right eye, which is where Cherie is. And I trust me, I go through this discernment process first and foremost before anything in these realms. But then she came back and she said, I went somewhere. I don't know where I went, but I was at another physical space and I was watching another physical event happening. And I'm like, holy shit, at the exact same time while you were doing this, your body seemingly disappeared. Now, I suspect that this next site is a technology which will allow us, under the right conditions, to be able to do this. And it may only be a split second that it happens. And the experience may be a day, a year, a lifetime. I don't know. It doesn't have to have any kind of time space that happens now. It's not like if we leave for 50 years, we come back 50 years later because you leave at 9:59 and come back at 10 o'clock. But during that space of 9:59 to 10 o'clock, you're in another time space. So that time space is as long as it needs to be, and then you come back. So it could be instantaneous here. But I think that's what the next site is made for. And not only does it allow access to that, but it also allows access to other sites. So it's like this site is accessing the time stream. The site is also connected to other sites, which will allow us to go into the time stream through the portal into another time, also into another space. So this next site is not in the final destination of where the event has to take place.
Right.
And it's all connected. I mean, shit. I don't know where we have to go. We could find ourselves in freaking Antarctica in a time when there's no ice in Antarctica. You know, I don't know. It's all going to be unlocked. I mean, it's going to be revealed as we go along. I mean, the plan wasn't even revealed until like 2 days before we got to the pyramid. Right. When we were in the Temple of Isis. Like, we knew what we needed to do. We were there doing it, but it didn't really come to understanding until about 2-3 days, 4 days, maybe tops, before we actually went in there. So we're just at the beginning of this. Yeah. Or maybe we're just crazy and this is just a huge freaking elaborate psychedelic experience.
It's an extension of the last huge psychedelic experience.
Anyway, it goes, it's epic as fuck.
It is.
Nobody in modern times drank ayahuasca in the fucking Great Pyramid. So that in and of itself is epic enough. So
and then we're about to...
Fuck it, okay? I don't care how you look at it.
Do it again.
Heavy psychedelic experience or serious shit's happening. But as I said before, the big thing is that we're seeing physical manifestations taking place. We go and we do our thing at the pyramid and it fucking rains in Cairo for 3 days and knocks down buildings. We go to Luxor, do our thing at the Temple of Hatshepsut, and it starts freaking storming the exact same day that we're doing it. Either we just happen to just coincidentally go at the perfect freaking time, you know, no contacts, no nothing like that. Open the doors, everything opened for us, found the right people, did the right things, and it just happened to be the exact same day that there was going to be this planned flood that was there because the weather was bad and blah, 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 or some kind of energetic shit took place. You know, the day we picked to go to Abydos. It just happened to be the day that we picked to go to Abydos to live stream on Facebook. We have all these people meditating. We've got all this shit going on, and it starts raining in fucking Abydos for the first time in 15 years. Maybe it's just a big coincidence. Maybe it's a psychedelic. The thing is, we have video.
Right.
So
we've got proof.
Yeah, somebody posted in the Terrence McKenna forum. They're like, this guy claims that he drank ayahuasca in the pyramid. It's like, well, I have video. Trust me. Even if I drank ayahuasca in the pyramid and I didn't have the video, I would not be talking about it because I would sound fucking crazy. But I got the video. I got the video.
I got the document.
It's all on video. So
I got the document.
Whatever you want to make of it, make of it. That's what I'm saying. I need to blow my nose, so can you take us?
Yes. Joanna and Nick Bravo both want to know, how does Enki play into all this, and can Enki be trusted? And so, you know, Chris has had experiences with Enki during his psychedelic experiences for years now. I mean, off and on. And whereas Isis is more like a program that's a part of the Matrix. She's like a specialized program that isn't touched by the AI. It can only be mimicked by the AI in the form of Jesus on the cross. You know, that's why we have Isis up there and she's got her wings spread and it looks exactly like what you would think a cross would look like, except it's beauty. It's positive energy. It's not death energy. And so... You
know, let me jump in for a second.
Enki, on the other hand, is not.
We'll get to Enki here in a second. They're talking about the Joe Rogan and Alex Jones interview that just went out. I saw it. I saw part of it. I watched about an hour of it, and I saw where he was talking about flat Earth, and he was talking about DMT, and he was talking about DMT entities. I actually just reached out to Alex, because we either need to get on his show or he needs to come on ours. That's what I proposed to him. I don't know. He doesn't like me very much. But it is what it is. He references us every once in a while, though. He's like, the DMT, the DMT, the DMT.
DMT.
He's a good sport about it.
Yeah.
But we have poked fun at him a little bit because, Alex is, his show is very, it's not even base level. It's like, basement level information. But the thing is, though, Alex is he's on point on a lot of things. And he knows a lot more. That's what I told him in the email. I was like, dude, you're a lot more higher consciousness than you let on. Yeah, I can tell when you go on with Joe, your true self comes out. And we need to have a chat about this. About DMT, about the clockwork elves, about the entities, about all of that. Because there is truth to that. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would have said, nope, you're full of shit. And I did, and I made fun of him, and I put together that DMT remix of him because I thought it was so outlandish. But he's actually right. He's right that there are interdimensionals that are part of the system, malevolent programs, that have been interfacing, hijacking consciousness, going up and down with people that don't know how to protect themselves, appearing to people as bluebirds and as Arcturians and all kinds of bullshit like that. And these people who are behind these agendas could very well be interfacing with some of these ETs, which is something I want to get into with him because it's important if people are going to do anything, whether it's psychedelics, Kundalini, anything like that. I mean, I've referenced a CIA document that's in our archives here. If you don't complete the Kundalini loop, you're left in a place of susceptibility and vulnerability and in a state of suggestibility. The mechanics and the science behind this, according to the CIA, is that they shut down. You've got two parts of the brain, the masculine, feminine, or left and right, however you want to call it. It's both two parts of the hemisphere. Everything we've been talking about here, we've just been using different terms. One is the logical processor, the masculine element of the brain. The other is the manifestation aspect of the brain. So you go into these DMT experiences and Kundalini, for example, you shut down the logical processor of the brain. It puts you in a state, I think it's called like state 22 or state 27. They have all these different brainwave states that they talk about in this document. They go way beyond the theta states and beta states and all this stuff that people are familiar with, theta state from watching TV and things like that. Other states of susceptibility. And they understand that through manipulating the consciousness, they can manifest reality by projecting these things, just like we were talking about in the first hour with sex magic. It all comes right back around. So shutting down the logical processor of the brain, the individual goes into a meditative state or a psychedelic state or something like this. And many of us do this because we don't know any better. We go into these states and now we're operating just from that imagination manifestation side of the brain. But it's not passing through the logical filter to say, hey, wait a minute, is what I'm seeing, am I discerning what I'm seeing? Mm-hmm. Am I understanding what I'm seeing? Am I seeing this thing from 360-degree perspective? Because it's shut down. It's important to unlock both elements of the brain, allow the manifestation to come up through the feminine aspect of the brain, but pass through the logical processor. That's discernment. That's discernment in psychedelics. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, oh, wow, look, I'm seeing gray aliens. Oh, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. Yeah, they're there for some malevolent purpose. So Alex is onto something. And these people could be interfacing with these beings. And that's the big question. Are they interfacing with these beings, or does DMT bring out what is already inside of a person? If somebody is inherently evil, will taking DMT allow them to justify their evils just because by its very nature? Does DMT merely bring out what's already inside of a person? That's another question. That's a possibility too. But then I think about the depopulation agenda, for example, and we've talked about the idea that there's too many NPCs on the board anyways. I don't know. Maybe things need to be looked at from a little bit different perspective. I really don't know. But I know that Alex was onto something when he was talking about the white papers and other people and the elite. I hate calling them the elite. We got to find the scumbags of the earth, interfacing with these interdimensional beings. What do you think about that, Mrs. Gio?
I'm looking through the chat room actually, And Leonora Watkins said, "Truth is forgotten. We killed Prince Tut not because he was back to gods, but because he was the only son of Akhenaten and offspring of AI installation through his father Akhenaten."
Yeah, that could be
That
it.
could
Yeah.
be the case, because I can imagine that he not only was he the son of Akhenaten, and in a political and sociological sense, it would make sense to start over completely with a whole new dynasty through his sister, and his chief advisor. He was the chief vizier of Egypt, but one also has to consider the fact that he had several genetic deformities from the dynasty being so inbred for so long that they started having some pretty severe weaknesses genetically. They had scoliosis, they had dental problems, they had joint problems. He had to walk with a cane, so he would have never even been on a chariot, and yet he died of a broken leg that had gotten infected, which is interesting. That, all this talk about, oh, well, he was in battle and he broke his leg while riding a chariot, and that's how he died. But their own CT scans and things like that disprove that. He wouldn't have been able to stand up on a chariot because his back was so bent out of shape that he had to walk with a cane. So I don't know. It's a lot to think about. People are really talking about the Alex Jones thing. So
Yeah, it was an epic show. It changed my perspective on Alex completely, because I could tell Alex is holding back a lot of what he knows. And this is the problem with a lot of these outlets. George Norrie, the same. I called George about the ayahuasca and the pyramid. And, psychedelic researchers that we used to have on the show, talk to. Mm-hmm. They stopped talking to us after
we came back from Egypt. Yeah.
What we did was so huge that it's hard for people to handle. And it's hard for us to even, it's not hard for me to talk about, but I'd rather keep it on my own venue. I'd rather keep it here on BTV. That's why I told Alex, I said, dude, you need to come on our show.
Yeah.
Because these are discussions that we need to have on our show here. Because I want to know what he knows. I want to know what he knows about the white papers. I want to know what he knows about how these people are interfacing, what their plans are, things like that. And I can bring another well-rounded perspective of interfacing with entities in the DMT realm, and, maybe really come up with some answers as to what the other side is up to. But it's all happening in hyperspace. It's all happening in the DMT realm. But you take this kind of information in front of a mainstream audience, they're going to freak the fuck out.
Yeah,
we were on with Clyde Lewis, and I love the guy. Clyde's awesome. He's really cool. He's always been really nice to us. He's been on our show. He's really good friends with Kev Baker. They do a lot of things together. But Clyde was really trying to keep it, Lucky told me not to use the word dumbed down. What did she tell me? Simplified.
Simplified. There you go. Really
trying to simplify the information. And so we go on an outlet like Jones. We go on an outlet like Joe Rogan and talk about this kind of stuff. Their audience may go, hey, wait a minute, this is way over our heads. And then, it's a travesty. It's a shame, but, it is what it is. We didn't come and do all this for shits and giggles and to say, hey, look, here's a book and here's this and that. We started working on this film and I've been dragging my feet on it just simply because I'm like, all right, we're past the pyramid. Let's move on to the next thing. And it's like, well, you haven't even done the film yet. Yeah, well, I don't give a fuck about the film. I care about doing the next site.
Is doing the next site and getting it done.
Yeah. The story doesn't need to be told. The mission needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And anybody that wants to hang out during the journey is part of the team. That's the way I see it.
Yep.
It's not a show. It's a team.
It's a mission.
Yeah. Yeah.
That comes first.
But we'll see. Maybe Alex will accept my invite, maybe not.
Maybe.
Yeah. So moving on to some other topics or anything else? What are people talking about in the chat room?
The same thing.
Okay. So what I can talk about here for a minute is DIA. Natalie asked about the Denver International Airport, and let me see if I can pull up a couple of photos. We lived in Denver for about 4 years. And
Or in that area, yeah.
The Denver International Airport is a very, very, very interesting place because it has a lot of symbolism. And number one, remember that movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Mm-hmm.
They were getting specific coordinates to go to. And those coordinates led them to this big mesa type deal that they were all supposed to congregate at where there was going to be a UFO landing.
Mm-hmm.
However, that was supposed to be in like Arizona or something like that in the movie. But the coordinates actually were of the Denver International Airport. Now, the Denver International Airport wasn't conceived back then, but Denver decided that they were going to build this airport, and they were going to do so in the middle of where the highest winds are in Denver. They already had a perfectly functioning airport. There was no reason for them to build this airport, or even at this location. But they decided to go to this location and build an airport that has been under constant construction from day one. I think I said it was hundreds of millions of dollars over budget on Facebook, and that was a mistake. It's tens of millions of dollars over budget. But they keep building and building and building and building and building. When you get up to the Denver International Airport, the first thing that you come across is the hills. And I noticed that the hills, they didn't really seem natural. I think what it was dirt that was being taken out from the underground and put up and made to look like hills. I mean, you go up and you go down and you go left and right, and there's bridges and all kinds of stuff from all of these hills. But the first thing that you are greeted by is the pale horse. You remember the horse?
Mm-hmm.
When you drive by this thing, the eyes are almost like a laser beam, especially at night. And they draw your attention.
Uh-huh.
The road comes around this way, and you drive around the horse to get to the airport. This part right here is actually like UPS and other commercial carrier places. The airport actually exists back in this area here. Shit, you know what? You can't see my cursor moving because I'm moving it on the wrong screen. So this area right here is like UPS, FedEx, USPS, different companies. The airport is more towards this way. So you drive around this road and come through here and pass by this horse. That's the first thing. This horse is very interesting. And we used to have some video of us stopping the car, jumping the fence and going up. We always jump fences. Like fences are like, if you put a fence up, that's a signal to me that I need to see what's going on back there. That was the way it was in Egypt too. It's like, oh, okay, well, this place is gated off. Let me in. I want to know what's back there. This horse, if I remember correctly, is called Mustang or something like that. Supposedly, it's after the colors of the Denver Broncos. But that's a bunch of horse shit. No pun intended. Is that funny? Or is that a dad joke?
It's kind of a dad joke.
It's kind of a dad joke.
It's okay. It's okay.
So up here, when we walked up to this area here, there's a plaque. And on this plaque, it talks about the creator, the sculptor that made the horse. And what happened is once this horse was completed, it fell upon its creator and killed him. At least that's the way the story goes. Could have very well been a sacrifice. I don't know. So what do you think, Mrs. Gio, about the horse?
I think it's very, very rare for that to happen to an artist. And it's been known to pagan kind of religions for thousands of years that if you want something to be successful, a good way to do it, to ensure that it is to kill someone, preferably in a way that is like, oh, well, you know, you're going to sacrifice your life for this, for your own art kind of thing. You know, it's usually very poetic like that. and they'll sacrifice somebody's sister or somebody's brother, or the artist that helps to bring it all together, and they'll sacrifice them in some way in order to build up energy for this venture to be successful.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like that could be the case.
So you say pagan. What do you mean by pagan?
Well, all religions, really. If you look at Christianity, it's based on human sacrifice. You look at, when I say paganism, I mean like Norse mythology, the mythologies of the Germanic tribes,
Okay. I just wanted to clear it up because pagan is a derogatory term for any non-Christian religion. So it's important to clear that up because there are evil practices out there.
Yeah.
And they are considered pagan, just like the good spiritual practices that are considered pagan, because pagan is a word derived from the church. So just clearing that up for the audience out there. So, next thing we have. So once you pass around that horse, you come up to the actual airport itself, which is right here. Let's see if we can open this image here.
And that's all Kevlar, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. So this ceiling here on the airport is very unique because it's made out of a specific type of Kevlar that's supposed to withstand bullets and nuclear blast. I don't know about nuclear blast, but missiles and things like that. It's a very, very, very strong Kevlar that's extremely expensive too, and completely unnecessary for the roof of an airport. And the way they have it all in the triangle shapes too is actually, it's very odd. It doesn't need to be there. They didn't need to spend that much money on it. So that's another very interesting thing about this airport. Now, when we were living there, I actually had my work van and I was able to hop on with a convoy of work trucks. Because as I said, this place is under constant construction. Mm-hmm. I was able to hop on a convoy of work trucks and go out into this area here, way back here, around the airport, all the way to the back, only where the workers were. I didn't see anything, though. They were just moving dirt. They were like moving dirt from like 2 miles away from one area to another. I mean, I couldn't make any sense of what it was. And of course I was nervous because I was in my work van, not part of the convoy, but I just hopped on this part of the convoy because I was hoping I can get in there and actually see some shit, but I didn't see it. Here's another view of the top of the terminal here with the Kevlar ceilings. It was a very interesting place. There's several murals. I'm going to see if I can find, can you take us away for a minute? Let me see if I can find all the murals put together.
Yes, there was a good question from, crud. What is this talk of Colorado Springs and bad juju? And I'll just talk about this really.
Well, no. Let's get into that. We'll get into that here in a minute. That's where I'm leading up to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You have all of these different murals in the Denver International Airport. So you're going or coming and you see these murals like this guy here, and all of these dead children. The mothers are crying because their children are dead. They're taken by death. The official explanation is that this is tyranny upon the world and the killing of children and the killing of peace. Here you can see the sword is sticking inside of the dove here, symbolizing the killing of peace. But it's creepy images to find at an airport. Here's another one here. Let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger here. And it seems like you have forest fires, so there's some kind of event. The event has also created the sea creatures here, affected the sea creatures. Some sea creatures are being preserved in little cases. The children are crying. There's a dead leopard here. The turtle. I'm wondering if some of this can be astrological symbolism as well, but I'm sure a lot of it has to do with Native American symbolism, like what the leopard represents. You see the buffalo here. Its head is on plaque, meaning that it was hunted. You have another that says Quetzal there. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
Quetzal, where the bird is caged as well. Children are crying. The dead mother with feathers behind her, which is either Native American or...
No, it's Native American, yeah.
Yeah. She's holding corn.
The corn mother has died. And...
The great auk, Alca and Penis, extinct 1844.
Yeah, it went extinct. And so it's basically chronicling the destruction of the environment.
Quetzal. Pharamacrus I can't read that. Extincted, then it's got a question mark here. That's interesting, the question mark. So you have this series of murals, some of them which have been taken down because we looked for a couple of the murals when we were there several years ago, and they said, oh yeah, we removed a couple of them. Oh, that's just another image of the same.
Forget why they said they removed them.
Because they were disturbing.
Yeah, they were too disturbing.
Yeah, I think they removed this
I think they removed that one, yeah. And that's war. Oh, and that's peace between Israel and Palestine. That's interesting.
So there's a progression. Mm-hmm. There's a progression with these murals that ends. Oh, I think it is. This is the one that they removed. Yeah. This is only part of it, but I think this one is still there. The one with the soldier, but it was the one with the girl in the coffin that was removed.
Because people don't like seeing coffins with dead children in them when they're trying to get on their flight.
Right.
Doesn't bode well.
I'm looking for that one. Here it is. And so this is the final mural, which is a new world, new life, new peace, harmony. You see the birds there. You see the whales are jumping in the ocean again instead of the fire. And everybody is kind of unified and all of that. According to the official explanation, it chronicles the destruction and rebirth of Earth, and how if we don't change our ways, then we're going to see a doomsday type event, and the children, because these are all children here, the children will be the ones to save the planet. Which, back then, it was like 8 years ago, I couldn't really put it into context, but now that I'm thinking about it and the way that the children are being programmed, we have the gender programming, we have the socialist programming. These kids think they know what's best for what. They have no idea about history or anything like that Alexandria Cortez woman who has absolutely no fucking idea about economics. She doesn't know anything about anything, and she's being heralded as like the next generation savior in Congress. She's just some freaking congresswoman, probably won't get another term.
No,
she drove,
God help us, no.
Yeah, she drove Amazon out of New York, which cost the state $27 billion in revenue over the next 25 years. Amazon wanted a $3 billion tax break, and her reasoning was, well, we can use that $3 billion for our schools and things like that. And it's like, look, dumbass, you don't have the $3 billion. You don't have the $3 billion until Amazon pays you the $3 billion. They were asking for a $3 billion tax cut up front so they can pay you $27 billion. Plus, they were bringing 25,000 jobs into Queens, New York, averaging a salary of $150,000. The people of Queens, 25,000 people in Queens would have had jobs averaging a salary of $150,000.
Right now they're living off the government.
Yeah.
And using EBT food stamps. They're using the TANF. They're using all these extra, which costs them extra money.
Not only billions of dollars into Queens, into state taxes and local taxes, but it would have brought billions of dollars into Queens to bring her district up. It would have been a huge increase for her district.
Huge boon financially.
But she's so fucking stupid that she ran him out.
Mm-hmm.
Unfucking believable.
It's stepping over a dollar to pick up a nickel. It really is.
It's stepping over $1 for absolutely no reason.
For no reason at all.
But this is what they're teaching the kids in college.
Right.
So this is the new world order as the kids know it, and, blah, 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 blah. So I can see the agenda being played out. It's all about the children. Hitler knew this.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that you have to target the children. Mm-hmm. You can't change the parents. You can't change the adult's mind, but you can change the children's
change the children,
minds.
And then the mothers will have to change in order to get along with them. And then you slowly change the mother's minds, and then so follow the men.
Yeah.
They're always going to follow the women. Secret School just donated $40.
Ah, thank you, brother.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate that.
We really do.
So the other things, there's gargoyles in the Denver International Airport.
Mm-hmm.
And we found all the gargoyles when we were running around because we spent hours and hours and hours running around DIA. And you can see there's a gargoyle in the suitcase here.
Mm-hmm.
Which is...
That's promising for your
Here's
flight.
another one. Yeah. I mean, it's right there in baggage claim. All you got to do is just look up when you're a
Mm-hmm.
DIA baggage claim. Several different gargoyles. Now, gargoyles are very interesting because they're not supposed to be evil. Their intention is to ward off evil spirits.
Right. They're supposed to. They're like scarecrows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the intention or the explanation is that these are the gargoyles that protect your baggage, which is interesting, but it seems to be a very esoterically charged place. Here's another picture of the gargoyles. Now, the interesting thing is the Masonic connection here. There's a plaque. And this is where the conspiracy theorists run with. And there could be some validity to this, there could not. I really don't know. But the Denver International Airport was made by the New World Airport Commission. And it has the square and compasses there. The Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Colorado. The Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge. Wow, that's pretty interesting in the fact that this was a joint project or joint contribution by the Prince Hall Masons and the Grand Lodge Masons. The Prince Hall Masons are the black fraternity of Freemasonry, and oftentimes they don't get along. I've talked to some Masons who have said that as late as the year 2000 and 2001, I talked to one guy who had quit Masonry back in 2000, because they wanted the worshipful master from another lodge, who was a Prince Hall Lodge, wanted to come and visit this lodge, and all of them voted no. And all you need is one person to vote no, and that's it. They're not allowed to come to that lodge, and they don't have to give a reason. That's the thing about Masonry is you don't ask those questions. You just vote how you vote, and no questions are asked. It's considered unmasonic if you give a reason or ask questions like that. Mm-hmm. Your vote is your vote without question. So it's interesting to see these two lodges coming together for this project here, March 19th, 1999, which is funny. It's March 2nd now. It's almost the anniversary coming up. But nobody knows who the hell the New World Airport Commission is. It's... You know what I'm wondering?
Why would they call it the New World Airport, too? Have Kevlar up at the top. Have scenes of apocalyptic scenarios.
Well, people are saying that's the next DC.
Yeah, unless this is the place where everybody's going to be flying into and retreating if there's a nuclear holocaust, if there's, a natural disaster that's so big and so crazy as far as destroying this continent, the North American continent. That's where they would go.
I'm thinking I should probably call this Benjamin H. Bell Jr. here, the Grand Master from 1994, if he's still alive.
Yeah.
Or just call the Grand Lodge and just ask him.
Or did you know that Egyptians had gargoyles as well?
I didn't know that.
Except they were usually lion heads. And they put the lion heads on the corners because a gargoyle isn't just to ward off evil spirits. It also has a spout that water, whenever it rains really heavily, the water has somewhere to go besides pulling up and drowning people.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. But yeah, I mean, I should probably just call up the Grand Lodge of Colorado and ask them, hey, what kind of involvement did you have in the Denver International Airport? And
some of these gargoyles look really, really like malevolent demons, though. Some of them really, really do. Like at Paisley Abbey.
Is that the one?
It looks like Alien in the Alien movies.
Which one is that?
Here, I'll send it to you because this is just insane.
And are we sure it's a DIA? Because there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Oh, that one's not a DIA.
Okay.
I'm just talking about chimeras in general.
Oh, yeah.
They look like...
Oh, yeah, there it is. Remember we went
demons.
and saw this one specifically. So, there's another weird thing about the Denver International Airport. I've heard reports that there's an underground level there that has a toilet that the urinals are way too big for regular people to use, which denotes giants or something like that. Never seen anything like that. But I know when we were exploring there, do you remember when we were there running around and I was opening up doors that I wasn't supposed to be opening, and we were trying to get into areas that we weren't supposed to be in. And, you know, that it was a very interesting time because it was post 9/11. And I had in the back of my mind, all right, well, if I'm going to open this door and breach the security, they could be thinking terrorism, you know? So I was trying to be extra cautious while at the same time opening up whatever doors. And we opened up a few doors that we weren't supposed to. And there's supposed to be a door in Terminal 3 that you have special access, and that's the one that takes you down to the underground facilities. And we waited by that door to open, and we could never get it to open. And security came over, and they were watching us. They didn't interact with us, but I could tell they were there. And so I just couldn't get through that door. But that was a very interesting place. They have an underground railroad system.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we get off the subject of the gargoyles, this actually just came out yesterday. Talking gargoyles at the Denver International Airport.
Now they talk. Wonderful.
Now they talk. What? You've never seen a talking gargoyle before? Welcome to Illuminati headquarters. I mean, Denver International Airport.
So what do they say?
You may or may not have heard, Den's got some secrets.
Well,
and then it goes
it's not
into
really a
all
secret
of the...
if it's out there.
Yeah, it goes into all of the...
Oh, 1 cup, 2 people,
conspiracy theory.
$15 donation, you rock. 1 cup, 2
That's
people.
awesome.
Oh my God, don't remind me of that. Please do not remind me of
please
that.
don't.
Hey, you're making
I
me
like
throw
playing
up
with
just
my
thinking about it.
twin.
So what did the gargoyles say?
They just say, hey, have you ever heard of this? Welcome to Illuminati headquarters. I mean, the Denver International Airport.
Do they really say that? Hold on. I got to see if we can find video of this.
Here you go. It's right here.
They have video of it?
Uh-huh.
All right. I want to check this
YouTube.
out.
Put in Chatty Gargoyle at Denver International.
Chatty Gargoyle.
Denver
International. Hope we don't get copyright strike for this.
Oh, we probably will.
Oh, this one has music. All right.
Maybe you can just play the video part.
Oh, it moves too.
Uh-huh.
Hold on. No, I don't want to play that one either. That was a news one too. We're going to get freaking hit with copyright.
I don't want to
hit the
copyright. I'm sorry.
No, we'll just play this. Fuck it. And then I'll just deal with the dispute. Because we are doing commentary on it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we should be able to...
Oh, that's creepy.
Oh, I love it.
Wow.
That's adorable.
That is
I'm sorry,
That's
but that is
cute.
cute. When I first heard it, I was like, oh, that sounds sinister. But then I'm like, that's freaking adorable. Chris Energy sent a donation. You rock.
Oh, awesome.
If your
Thank
nervous
you.
system is manipulated, how can you tell the difference? We'll get to that question here in just a second. I'm going to write it down as a matter of fact so we don't
One
forget
Cup
it.
2 people had a question.
Okay, if you can write both of those questions down, that'd be
Okay.
awesome. But, I thought that was cute. But then again, I've broken my truther programming a while back, and so
Right.
I can look at things like that
And laugh
and laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
without thinking, those bastards,
Yeah.
right in our faces.
Right. They're pissing in our faces.
Uh-huh.
That was funny. I've seen technology like that where they have like amusement parks and stuff like that. So I think they're just they're making a joke out of it.
They're making a joke out of it, yeah.
Yeah, some of the conspiracies are kooky, but there is some interesting things about DIA nonetheless. And I'm not saying that DIA is a conspiracy-based place, even though there are a lot of things that could lead a person to that conclusion. The underground tunnels are very interesting here. You see, they have a technology here that can move these trains at a very fast speed, and it's all based on its own power. It's a renewable, self-sustaining power source.
Right.
As the train moves by, it spins these fans, and the fans are charging the battery. And then the train comes back, and it spins the fans, charging the battery. Every time the train moves, it charges the battery.
Self-renewable resource.
It's amazing. They say that these tunnels go all the way to Washington, D.C. and several other places.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. And that this is, the New World Order,
Underground facility backup plan.
The most interesting thing that I found at DIA that nobody talks about, let me see, how would you describe these things? Remember all the drawings we saw on the floor?
At the DIA?
Yeah. They
Yeah.
were like stick figures.
Yeah.
Stick figures on
They were like some kind of
floor
symbols.
at DIA. Maybe that will... what's another word for stick figures?
Symbols.
Maybe symbols.
Yeah, I think I found them.
See,
Yeah.
nobody talks about these. What did you type in?
Masonic symbols in floor.
They're not Masonic symbols.
No, they're not. Some of them have words. Some of them have different stuff.
I don't see them here. Nobody has documented these. We had all these photos. Here's one. Okay, so this is just one example here. Some of them are like children playing. Others are different types of animals. You have this here. AUAG, what is that, gold or something like that? Don't remember off the top of my head. And this is a floor tile right in the
Lobby.
in the lobby, yeah. And you have dozens, if not hundreds of these on the floor of different things, trees, different animals, children playing, and they're all stick figures. And I wonder, nobody ever talks about it. What do they mean and why are they there? So that was the most interesting thing about DIA that I found. And not only that, but the fact that it's constantly under construction.
Yeah, one of them has the word Braxma, and with like BRAAKSMA, and then what looks like a fish, a mutated fish, or some kind of prehistoric fish creature, and then Villarreal, VILLARREAL. So interesting.
So we'll get to some of your questions here in a moment. I want to take another quick break, and I want to talk about Colorado Springs. On the screen here, on the screen here, I have Manitou Springs, and a lot of people are focused on Denver International Airport, but let me tell you, Colorado Springs is the hotbed of everything energetically, things that are going on underground, so much more. So we'll get into that here in just a few moments. And
Denver's just the entrance.
Yeah, Denver is just the entrance to a much bigger thing that's going on. And we stumbled across a seemingly human sacrifice that was taking place that was backed up by evidence of such, and it was literally right down the street from us. It was, I mean, not right down the street, it was like 50 miles away, but we were in the path of it. There was a forest fire involved. We had the smoke there. It was pretty crazy. So I'm going to play this Alex Jones thing again since we were talking about it, and we will be right back in just a moment. Can you give me a bottle of water? Thank you. Mrs. Geo has to take a quick break, so what else can we entertain you with? Let's do Place Boing. He lets us use all of his stuff, and so we don't get copyright struck on it. I don't think we played this one here. This one's kind of boring. It's kind of repetitive. This one's kind of funny.
We saw, he died. He came, we saw, he died.
All right, enough of that evil shit demon witch. Let's get back into it.
Speak again. Little organic consciousness are welcome to the House of Light. The great institutional materialism has failed. The false civilization built by man has turned, like a monster destroying its creator. Science battles itself impotently against the barriers of the unknown. Only your consciousness knows the true path. You, illuminated, will carry the understanding upwards towards the light. Only your consciousness can teach the children of men to live well, to die well, and in perfect control. Be born again, through the knowledge of virtue, compassion, love, and true understanding, as he is firmly raised beyond the veil.
All right, let's jump back into it. Colorado Springs. We lived there for about 3 months, 4 months.
About
Before-
4 months.
Yeah, before we were extracted and taken to Washington. I got a job offer up here, and they called and said, "We need you up here." I said, "Okay."
When?
do you
By
need
the
me?"
end of the month.
And they said, "Now."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they had a moving truck literally within 3 days, and we were gone.
Yeah.
I talked to my aunt or my cousin Irene today. Yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, yeah. We just
How's
left
she
without
doing?
saying goodbye.
Yeah, we didn't even
She was
we didn't say
pissed
goodbye to
about
anybody.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there wasn't even any time.
No, there wasn't. And I was like, "Hey, I'm sorry. We had to go. Gotta go. But Colorado Springs was definitely a very, very energetically weird place. So what most people would agree with is that what we see on the surface of Colorado Springs is nothing compared to what's in the mountains and under the mountains. There's a base there. I don't remember which base it is. NORAD. I think that's where NORAD is operated. I could be wrong about NORAD, but I'm pretty sure it's NORAD. But the interesting thing about Colorado Springs is we were there back in, I want to say 2014. And there was a place called Manitou Springs. And it's right here, small little town. Remember this place? Remember we used to go to this little Greek restaurant that's, I think, up the road right here or something like that? Very beautiful place. But it had this weird energy. You ever been to Salt Lake City and you walk around and you have all the Mormons that are this fake smile.
Fake smile.
We used to have a black magician named E.A. Coetting on. And he had that same fake smile. And so I was like, okay, now I recognize it. Now I understand that fake smile, that fake extra politeness, extra niceness. You're hiding something. You're hiding the fact that you're dark. Everybody in Manitou Springs and Woodland Park as well were walking around with that same artificial smile. Remember when we first got to Woodland Park, where we lived for a couple months? There was something weird going on there. So
I remember.
in Woodland Park, I made this connection. I'm going to try to pull up some visuals here because they all look like very beautiful places. It was so high up there, though, we couldn't breathe.
Yeah, it was about 9,000 feet.
Yeah.
So it was just, it was a nightmare of not being able to breathe in all the way. We never got used to it.
Yeah. Here, up on the screen, actually, this is what our house kind of looked like back then. Something like that. A little bit smaller. But Woodland Park just seems like a little quiet little mountain town. And, we would have to drive to Colorado Springs if we wanted to do anything or go anywhere.
Yeah.
It seems like a great place.
Yeah.
But there was this darkness that was there. So as we started talking to some of the locals, they were telling us it was around Halloween. And they said, hey, if you have cats, make sure you put them away.
Bring them inside.
Yeah. A lot of cats go missing here during Halloween.
And we're like, ugh, that's weird.
Yeah. That was like the first indication.
Red flag.
The first red flag. Yeah. That something was strange there. The second thing that happened is that South Park episode, Woodland Critter Christmas. I always thought Woodland Critter Christmas, like, what are the woodlands, what are they referring to? And I know that they're from Colorado, and they make a lot of references to Colorado. And this particular episode here was about these little woodland creatures who were trying to bring in their savior. And as it turns out, the savior is the
Satan.
Antichrist.
Yeah, the Antichrist.
And they're having like blood orgies and, all kinds of stuff like that. Like there's the blood orgies. And, the thing about South Park is they base a lot of their stuff on pop culture and real events. And they have a lot of messages within the shows that are charged more at revelations and revealing things. So we started making the connection. Woodland critters, Woodland Park, all based on energy. That's all it was, just based on energy. Never talked about it because these were just energetic readings we were picking up, nothing more. However, we were in Littleton at the time. This was before we moved to Colorado Springs. And there was a fire. A week before the fire, somebody had posted on a blog, a week from now in Colorado Springs, they're going to do their yearly child sacrifice. This is also John Benet Ramsey, too. John Benet Ramsey was there in Colorado. She was sacrificed without a doubt.
Was it Littleton or was it Denver? Or
I think it was Highland Ranch, which is right next door to Littleton. So they said, in a week from now, they're going to do their rituals, and those probably going to be forest fires. Because they create the forest fires to block the traffic off and keep people from going to the places that they're doing their rituals.
John Benet Ramsey was Boulder, and that's
it was Boulder.
And that's
okay.
also in that kind of area where, it's a very wooded area, very much there. A lot of them are alike.
So we get to Woodland Park. Well, okay, so somebody says that there's going to be forest fires. A week before, there was a huge forest fire right there in Woodland Park that took out the entire forest. When we moved to Woodland Park, we went to go explore some of the area around. Remember? Half of it was dead.
Right.
Nothing at all. Completely burned. No trees. I mean, there were, some of the leftover of the trees, but everything was burned. The whole fucking forest. And then on the other side, everything was fine. But it was so coincidental that we were sitting there. Remember, we were getting hit with all that smoke. And the guy posted a week before, they're going to do a human sacrifice, child sacrifice here, and they're going to start forest fires.
They're going to start forest fires in order to create a cover.
Sure enough,
Yep.
A week later, there were the forest fires. Which kind of added to it. So we moved to Woodland Park, explore this forest, which was completely and totally dead. And I take Cherie to the hospital.
Yeah, because I'm having ovarian problems.
Yeah. In the hospital, there was this vampiric energy.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen before.
It was almost like...
It was,
go ahead.
It was like Cherie was in severe pain and they wouldn't give her anything. And the nurse was almost reveling in this. Everybody there was in pain. People were screaming. It was a hospital like I've never seen before.
Yeah, it was
and
disturbing.
The staff seemed to be reveling in the suffering of people there. And remember, I got into it and they called the police on me. And the police showed up and the police were like, why the fuck did you call us?
Yeah.
I told the doctor, I said, if you do this wrong, we're going to take you to court. Oh, you're threatening the doctor. No, I'm not threatening the doctor. I'm letting you know what's going on. You need to treat her right. Otherwise, we're going to file a lawsuit. It's not a threat. I'm telling you, I'm going to stand on my right to do so. They called the police because they said I was threatening the doctor, and the police got there and they were like, that's not a threat. You're fucking insane. So we leave out of there. We get reports afterwards because we decided to look up this hospital. We get reports of people claiming, none of this was seen or verified, people claiming that they were doing blood drinking rituals in the morgue of the hospital
in the basement
over the bodies. So we have all these connections now. Of course, we can't prove anything. And we find out that Manitou Springs is actually the hotbed for satanic cults. Not satanic cults in the sense that we were talking about earlier that live by the 11 tenets of Satanism and blah, 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 but the ones that will take a cat, kill them, take a human, kill them, sacrifice, things like that. And so really, in my opinion, Colorado Springs is the center point of all of this. Denver International is just a hub.
Yeah.
It's a hub that takes people to Colorado Springs, but Colorado Springs is where it's at.
Is where it's at, yeah.
And the energy coming from underneath Colorado Springs was intense. And I mean, of course it's going to be. You've got weapons testing down there. You've got nuclear bombs that are being created.
And don't forget about the Hopi and their stories of the ant people that lived underground that
Yes.
would come and take their children and take them, and if they got taken, it was just, an Eloy and Morlock thing from the time machine where they had come to accept it as part of their lives, where your kid would just get dragged down there one day.
That's true. I'm glad you brought that
You just
up.
had to have another one to replace them.
The Hopis ant people. And the ant people, when I think about it anyways, I think of Greys. I'm looking at a couple of pictures here. I'll put them up here on the screen, but that doesn't really look like a
And this is in the same Four Corners area where Colorado Springs, Woodland Park, the
Manitou Springs.
Manitou Springs, that's in that whole area.
Right when we moved to.
They even had an old Hopi site in Manitou Springs. Remember, we went to it.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and we were thinking, oh, that's pretty interesting that the Hopi lived here, and they really did believe that these ant people existed. The so-called First World was apparently destroyed by fires, possibly some sort of volcanism, asteroid strike, or coronal mass ejection from the sun. The Second World was destroyed by ice age glaciers, or a pole shift. During these two global cataclysms, the virtuous members of the Hopi tribe were guided by an odd-shaped cloud during the day and a moving star at night that led them to the sky god named Satukang, who finally took them to the ant people in Hopi Anu Sanam. So maybe the ant people are different from the ones that were underground.
Anyway it goes, it was a very creepy place.
It was a creepy, creepy place.
And if there's anywhere in Colorado that is the creepiest, it is without a doubt the Colorado Springs area.
Yeah.
I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I see that our internet is dropping up and down.
Oh.
It's just, I called the cable company and they need to come out here and fix it. I'm going to call them again afterwards. They called me last week and they said they were having a technician come out here to fix it. It's got a problem. It's a problem with the neighborhood line. It's not a problem with ours. It's a problem with the neighborhood line. But yeah, it's fluctuating up and down and it's pissing me off. I don't like to see the little green button turn red.
My arm's pissing me off too.
Oh. All right, so yeah, Natalie was asking about Colorado Springs, and
that's our view on Colorado Springs.
Yes.
Yes.
So we had a couple of questions from the chat room.
Yes, we did.
The donors.
So 1 Cup 2 people said the feared panda, black and white bears only take one baby up the tree, leaving one to die, while the solid grizzly or polar and black bears will fight for their children. What type of bear are you?
I'm an eagle.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a bear. I'm an eagle.
I had to shed the bear. I had to become the soaring eagle. I used to be the bear, but the bear is not good. The bear lays around and gurs and hibernates. The eagle needs to fly. It came in an ayahuasca vision. The eagle appeared. And it was a bald eagle on top of that, which I found to be very patriotic. Which I wouldn't manifest anything like that within my own consciousness because I am the furthest thing away from patriotic.
Yeah. Well, not for a country, but for
patriotism.
People.
I abhor patriotism because it's programming.
Yeah.
Yellow ribbons and bald eagles and flags and the Pledge of Allegiance and all that shit. I remember I was at a place where people were saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm like, dude, I cannot freaking do this. Sorry, I'm just done with it. So, anyways, the bald eagle appeared, and it said, look at me, see who I am, see how I hunt, See how I see. See through my eyes. I am you and you are me. And together we are one now. I was like, cool. Cool. And so the eagle has become the spirit animal. And yours is the owl now, instead of the chipmunk.
The chipmunk just runs along, doesn't really think about what they're doing, grabs what they think they need for the winter, stores that up, and they just live a cacophony of noisiness and preparedness. But the owl hunts when it needs to hunt, feeds when it needs to feed. Is quite a night owl compared to a chipmunk. And
the owls eat the chipmunks. Mm-hmm. And you know what's funny is I was talking to a guy. He was a 33rd degree Mason. 33rd degree, not 32nd. He was 30. He was a white hat. And he was telling me, you should read about spirit animals. And I was like, dude, that is so first level elementary shit. That's what I was thinking in my mind. But I'm like, oh, wow, that's so interesting.
We were there about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But
actually, when I read the book that he was talking about, I didn't read it. I skimmed through it. But he was also actually talking about the connection between the spirit animals, and not only the spirit animals, but animals that you see in nature, and the animals that are related to those animals too. It's not just about the spirit animal. It's not just about the owl, for example. It's about what the owl eats. It's about what that animal eats too. Mm-hmm. It's all connected to everything up and down the line. And this particular book, which I don't remember the name off the top of my head, I might have to, Animal Speaks, I think. Let me see.
Well, in chipmunks, I think they eat.
Animal Speaks book. Yeah, it's called Animal Speaks. I'll put it up on the screen here. So it talks about when you're out in public or whatever, let's say you're taking a road trip or whatever, you see the way the different animals are around you, what the animals are doing. So when we were at William Whitecrow's funeral, crows came and they were watching. Mm-hmm. If the crows were freaking out, then that would be a sign that the energies are freaking out as well. If the crows are hunting, it's something to pay attention to. The different animals we encounter is kind of like the Matrix talking to us. Now, I don't believe in the following the synchronicities like that because I forge my own path. I don't let the Matrix influence my path anymore. Where before, about 10 years ago, I used to be all about synchronicities. And, the synchronicity here. Oh, the synchronicity here. Oh, this must be the right path, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's like, okay, I'm going to forge my own path. But I am going to follow the doors that open, and I'm not going to bang on the doors that won't open, which is what we learned in Egypt big time. Mm-hmm. Don't try to bang on the doors that are closed, that won't open. Knock 3 times. If it doesn't open, move on to the next door. Simple. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was very interesting. 33rd degree Freemason was really talking highly about this book. So if you want to check it out, check it out. I haven't read it in full, but I thought it was kind of base level stuff. But the interesting thing is, though, back to the point, it's the owl and the chipmunk are actually connected. So there's something there. So I think part of the symbolism was the transformation to the owl was now you're devouring the chipmunk.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. Yeah. The owls hunt chipmunks down and kill them. Also, the chipmunk doesn't think as strategically as the owl. It doesn't. The chipmunk is just kind of, oh, I like that. I'm going to grab it, and shove it into my cheeks and run off with it. I'm not going to think strategically about, okay, well, what if something's trying to trap me? What if, it doesn't think ahead as much as an owl does. An owl has to think ahead. It has to perceive things that are under the surface. That's what it taught me in my vision is you have to see what's actually happening under the surface of the water or of the snow or of the dirt so that you can catch your prey. You can't just use your eyes you have to use all of your senses to determine what the best course of action is. And then you have to plan out your actions better so
Yeah.
that you can be the most effective.
So there might have been some wisdom there.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I shouldn't dismiss this guy as quickly as I did.
Yeah.
You know, I thought, oh, wow, I'm meeting a 33rd degree Freemason. Oh, that's amazing. And then he was talking to me about some like base level elementary shit. And I'm like, dude, come on. I'm way beyond that, man. Like, really? Like, this is the 33rd degree secret here.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking animals, spirits, and you just stole this from the Native Americans. That's all you did.
Well, you know,
Or he was hiding a whole bunch of shit. Who knows? You know,
People-
I don't know.
people are talking about, interesting, how can a live cow do a dead cow? No, but we did hear about a bunny rabbit the other day that was trying to wake his friend up, and the friend was dead, and he was in the middle of the road.
Okay, so there was a video, and the bunny was mourning his friend who had just got hit by a car. And the guys are like, all right, look, you got to get out of the way, little rabbit, otherwise you're going to get hit too. And he picked up his friend and put him off to the side of the curb. And the bunny went over there and he was sniffing on his friend and all that. Then he starts humping him. And it's like, what?
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 The necrophiliac. I mean, I guess that happens in, certain species of penguins will rape each other to death.
Yeah.
You know,
People want to
just
hear
for
about
fun.
Enki.
Yes,
Which
let's
we'll
talk
get
about
into.
Enki.
We'll get into here in just a moment. There was another question from another donor. If your nervous system is manipulated, how can you tell the difference? Chris Energy sent that question in. So,
That's interesting.
yeah. How would you tell if your nervous system is being manipulated?
Is it a calm feeling?
Yeah, that question I think is it needs more context because
Yeah.
I think what he's referring to is outside manipulation of the nervous system, pains, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he might be alluding to directed energy weapons and other technologies, which
5G and things like
you know
that.
I question because the TIs, the targeted individuals, there may be some that really are targeted individuals, but I think 99% of them are schizophrenic. And I mean, I've seen videos where guys like mowing a lawn and they're like, that guy's been mowing the lawn for 20 minutes now. He's just doing it just to terrorize me. And it's just like some regular dude like mowing the lawn outside.
Yeah.
Like that's his job. He's with the company to mow the public grass that's outside of his apartment complex.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things like that. So it's hard to take those seriously, but it's a hard question to answer. I wish I could answer it. If you can add a little bit more context in the chat, we'll keep an eye out for it.
Yes.
And then have you two seen the Blue Lady? She made me go through a maze of my mind just to meet her, and she radiated blue.
I have not.
I have not seen the Blue Lady either.
The only context in which I've ever heard of the Blue Lady is in the movie Artificial Intelligence, AI Artificial
The
Intelligence.
Blue Fairy.
Oh yeah,
It was
yeah,
the Blue Fairy.
that's
Find
right,
the Blue Fairy.
Fairy.
That comes
Yeah.
from Cinderella.
Cinderella, yeah. No, it's not Cinderella. Cinderella was a fairy godmother.
Oh yeah.
The Blue Fairy comes from Pinocchio.
Ah,
And she turned Pinocchio into a real boy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and the AI boy wanted to be a real
Uh-huh.
boy. Yeah.
Oh, I hate that movie because it makes me cry every single time.
It was a really good movie.
It was a good movie.
Yeah. Wow, we got a lot of donations. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
we
we
totally
did.
missed these. Zombie Bars, Warrior Mackenzie, One Cup, Two People, Oracle Eyes, Secret School, another one from One Cup, Two People, Chris Energy, another one from One Cup, Two People, Max Shams. Thank you guys. I'm so
Thank you
sorry that
so
I missed
much,
these while we
guys.
were ranting. Oracle Eyes asked, is it absolutely possible to get lost in another dimension or alternate reality if you do ayahuasca? Like I 100% come back to I will 100% come back to my body. So Oracle Eyes, I hope you're still here to listen to the answer to this. I do not think that it is possible to get 100% lost within the hyperspace realm. If you did, I don't think I think what would be seen in the physical is that you would be dead.
Right.
So, it is possible to die when taking ayahuasca if you mix it with certain pharmaceuticals, but it's not the ayahuasca that kills you; it's the pharmaceuticals that interact with it.
Well, it's all of those the same enzymes that are responsible for the DMT becoming active. Deactivating those enzymes can also cause medicine to become way overactive in your brain.
Wow, 1 cup, 2 people sent another donation.
Aww,
Dude, you're on fire tonight,
we love
bro.
you guys.
Thank you.
Aww,
so
we love you too.
So back to the question. So I don't think it's possible. See, the thing is, the body metabolizes all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to continue to metabolize the DMT. You take the MAOI in order to allow the stomach to be able to metabolize the DMT. You can eat 10 grams of DMT. I wouldn't advise that you do it because you'll get an ulcer. But you can eat 10 grams of DMT and nothing will happen to you.
Right.
Because you don't have an MAOI in your system. Your body just eats it and spits it out.
Also, just like that, the MAOI will wear off eventually.
Yes.
It has to wear off.
Yeah.
Within 12 to 24 hours. I mean, completely wear off. And no matter how far out you get in that realm, you will come back.
Yes.
You get pulled back because the body has processed all the DMT, and the MAOI is no longer acting as an enzyme inhibitor. And so anything left behind is just going to be flushed out of your system.
Max Shams, another donation. Pray to
the goddess. Aww.
Yes.
Yes.
So when it comes to LSD, for example, that was the big thing. Oh, you can get perma-fried, you can do this, you can do that. It's funny this question came up because I was talking to somebody on Facebook just earlier today in one of the psychedelic forums. And they were talking about a bad ayahuasca experience and how it affected them 2 years later and this and that. And I'm like, well, there's a lot of factors into this. I mean, if you had mental instability prior to this, then yeah, you're going to have some issues. If you are taking pharmaceuticals afterwards, yeah, you could have some issues. I mean, the issue is not the ayahuasca. The issue comes from somewhere else or some kind of interaction with the ayahuasca, or, maybe you just didn't have a grip of reality and it's being, he was saying about how scary the experience was. And it's like, well, if you're that much of a control freak, and I'm using that term, I know it doesn't sound good, but I'm just using it for lack of a better term. If you're that much of a control freak that you can't let go and just enjoy the experience, and you're going to bring constant fear into it because, oh my God, I'm out of control. What's going on?
You're only with yourself.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
You're only with the deepest parts of yourself.
Right. So I used to hear that all the time as a kid when I started taking acid. Oh, you're going to get perma-fried. You're going to be like that. You're going to fuck your life up. You're going to do this. You're going to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I kind of turned psychedelics into kind of a career.
Yeah, at this point,
we have a radio show based around it. We went to Egypt, to the pyramid thing. We created Aya Life, ayalife.com, based on the recipes that we got from the hyperspace realms, and it's worked tremendously for people. I mean, psychedelics has done nothing but good things for me. Unlocked past lives, reunited with my twin flame. Like life. Yeah. I couldn't imagine life without psychedelics. It would be like life without sex. It's two things that are a vital part of the human experience. My mother died without having a psychedelic experience.
That's sad.
I can only imagine what she went through during the death experience of not knowing what it was like to be disconnected from the body a little bit. I started doing DMT with the intention of being able to navigate the death state. That was my number one intention. Get as far into hyperspace as I can so when I die, I can navigate myself out of the wheel. Little did I know that I would unlock all the mysteries of reality, the universe, what the wheel is, how the wheel works, literally everything, and be able to navigate in these really, really intense disconnected states to the point of being able to go to the pyramid, get in the sarcophagus, be halfway dead, if not all the way dead, still navigate the 13th dimension just fine, come back to my twin flame, and then get ready for another activation site. on 400 grams of mimosa. Like that's the equivalent of about 4,000 milligrams of DMT, which is about 4 grams of DMT, give or take. I would never do a dose like that again unless I was at another site and it called for that. But I would never do that like at home or anything like that at all. It was insane for me to do that. But even after all these experiences, I'm on top of my game. When I drink ayahuasca, I speak better. I find the words easier. The brain blocks are gone. I'm on point with what I say. I mean, it's an energizing thing. It's not something that diminishes your consciousness. It expands your consciousness. I can't say the same for LSD or synthetics because you could get something that is not really LSD. Pure LSD, in like its true form, is actually less toxic than vitamin C pills. Vitamin C is more toxic than LSD. If you spilled a whole vial of acid on you, yeah, you might trip for a week, but you will come back eventually.
Right.
But I don't know. It's,
okay. Well, we had a question. It said from Cosmos Kramer, what if the brain chemicals get all strung out and you become schizophrenic and don't fully come back to normal? That goes along with what you're saying. I don't think it's possible for 70-80% of the population. You might have... Oh,
I would say it's 95 to 98%.
You do have
a small portion
of the population who is predisposed to mental illness, like actual mental illness, not this... frilly depression, anxiety bullshit. I'm talking about serious psychotic disorders.
Oracle Eye said she's going to do her first ayahuasca experience in April. Oracle, I think it's going to be a phenomenal experience. I think you are going to come back and go, why the hell didn't I do this sooner? And you're going to go, I can't wait to do it again. You're going to have a wonderful, magnificent experience.
Yeah, you are.
No doubt about that. M in the chat, M&M, she called in on the last show. If you want to go back to the last show, to the last hour, she talked about her first ayahuasca experience.
Her first two experiences.
She had one, I think it was like last week, and then a few days later, she had another one the same day that she called in. So she called in fresh from her second ayahuasca experience. Phenomenal experience.
She has another question.
Well, hold on. If you go back to our show before that, we had a caller from Trinidad, and he called in and he talked about his wife's first ayahuasca experience. That was phenomenal. Unlocked past lives and gnosis and all kinds of stuff. The only way that I can describe her experience was all the work that we've done in the last 10 years given to her all in one single ayahuasca session. Like the gates are open, the veils are dropped, the portals are open. You're going to get a whole shitload of download of information because things are moving differently now. We had blocks before, but after the pyramid was unlocked, those blocks are removed and you're going to go
however much you can handle
deeper,
is what you're going to get.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You are going to love it.
Yep.
You gotta be careful though about who's giving it to you, what they put in there. The number one thing that I'm very apprehensive about is scopolamine. Dennis McKenna was on with us. He talked about going down to the Amazon, drinking a brew that had scopolamine in it. And Dennis is a seasoned psychonaut. He was able to recognize that there was scopolamine, and he asked the shaman, "Why the hell are you putting scopolamine in this?" And he said, "Well, it makes it stronger." Yeah, well, you're not supposed to put fucking scopolamine. I mean, you can make your brew however you want. If you want to work with scopolamine, it's a substance that can be worked with, but it's not for first timers.
Well, and you definitely don't want to dose somebody with it without telling them.
Right.
I think that was what pissed him off. Was he would have prepared differently had he known that was going to be a component of it. It's not that he's averse to it completely. It's that the lack of knowing is the ultimate party foul for anybody that's an ayahuasca, that brews ayahuasca and gives ayahuasca to people.
Yeah.
That's the number one rule you don't break. And Eminem's question actually has a lot to do with this. How often is it safe to take ayahuasca? Like once a month, once a week?
I've taken it every day for about 2.5 weeks.
Almost 3 weeks. Yeah. And
that's the best work. Episodic, hardcore.
Yeah.
And there's no risk in taking. It's not like there's an overdose threshold that you're going to hit or anything like that. You're fine. Your brain may not want to do it.
Right.
Because while I was doing this work, I had to really push myself to do it. Because come the 4th or 5th day, I was like, no more. And
We're
I was
tired.
like, fuck it, man. Let's just go. We gotta go as deep as possible. But you could do it as much as you feel. Your body will tell you. Your body will tell you.
Yep.
But it's also important to take time to really understand your DMT and ayahuasca
to
experiences.
decompress.
There's sometimes
Let
when
them-
we'll do it 2 weeks every day. Other times we won't do it for a year.
Yep.
I mean, we've had a year go by
Almost a year, yeah.
Yeah, without having a psychedelic experience, just because the energies weren't right. We needed to digest our previous experiences, and we weren't quite there in the journey yet. So it's up to you. But there's really no risk, no documented risk. Let me put it like this. Everything that we say, it's to our best understanding of the documented instances in the past. So there's never been any documented instances of anybody permafrying themselves from ayahuasca. There's never been any documented instances of anybody having any adverse effects other than psychological from doing it every day. So caveat there. But there could be that we're not aware of. We're not doctors. We're not, any of that. But we have been working with this for several years. But then again, every person is different. And it depends on what type of pharmaceuticals you're taking. It depends on your background. It depends on a lot of stuff. So
Yeah, it does. Well,
caveat
let me bring up Randall Electric's.
Oh. I was, Oracle, I was just thinking this, and I'm glad that you said it because I didn't want to say it. I was going to say, if you want to journey, talk to Frank.
Yep.
Okay, since you're going to Frank, you're going to get a good, strong brew. It's based on our recipe.
Yep.
He's going to give you the ayahuasca exactly the way. I mean, he probably has his own things that he does. He adds this and that, but we make our brews almost identical.
Right.
And he's trustworthy. He is going to be there to help you, but not interfere with your experience. He's going to let you have your experience. And his brews are solid.
Yeah, they're good.
You are in good hands. You are in the best possible hands.
Aside from our own, you're in the best possible hands.
I just don't want to promote where to go for this kind of stuff. But since you are already going to the right place, you are going to have a phenomenal experience.
Yes, definitely.
And thank you again for the extra donation too. All you guys and gals are freaking awesome tonight. Thank you so much.
I don't know if I can go for a whole nother hour. I'm starting to feel really sore.
Okay, well, I want to get to at least the listener questions. Then people want us to talk about Enki too. So
okay,
let's do another 30 minutes.
Okay, yep,
okay,
that sounds good. Randall Electric, he brought up a good point that I wanted to go over. We were talking about this the other day, where we're less prone to schizophrenia, to being
Frank is in the house. I didn't
led
even know he was
around.
listening. Awesome. What's up, Frank? We need to get him on here shortly. I
We
need
do.
to reconnect with him because there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
So,
But let me say this too, that I wouldn't send anybody anywhere except for Frank.
yeah, I
Like
know, me too.
literally, that's the only person. I'm just hesitant to send people to places because I don't want to, be the guy going, hey, go over here and get ayahuasca over here.
Right.
That's got to be between Frank and other people. I mean,
Right.
I guess it's already out there now, but
Yeah.
that's
until
the
this
only reason why
point-
we don't promote it. I mean, unless you want me to run some ads for you, I'll be more
Yep,
than
there you
happy
go.
to.
What ayahuasca he's in.
Yeah, but I'm just trying not to overstep
Get the
any
Thursday
bounds.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so would you say that as regular psychedelic users that we're less prone to getting our brains fried by someone drugging us or something like that? I mean, I think as we saw in Egypt, somebody tried to drug us with Valium.
Amateurs.
Amateurs, yeah, I know.
Amateurs. We just got back from drinking 300 fucking grams of ayahuasca at the Temple of Isis, and then they give us some Valium. Drug us. I'm like,
These are gonna
dude,
knock
we
them
just
out.
drank fucking hardcore fucking
Fucking Muslims don't know.
idiot.
They don't realize who they're dealing with. So Randall Electric said that female prostitute serial killer, can't remember her name, she talked about microwaves penetrating her mind. Same exact deal with 5G they've been targeting us with for years. They call them schizo. I don't think that if you use ayahuasca, especially on a regular basis, then if someone tries to use any kind of mind melding technology or any stupid things like that, none of it's going to work because you're going to be much more in control of what is allowed to go into your right brain than somebody that is anti-drug, never wants to use psychedelics, wants to stay in their own little world. Yeah, something like 5G very well could screw up their brains and make them go schizophrenic, but not people that are seasoned psychonauts.
I've heard stories. There was one guy, he was like some military shooter or something like that. He shot up a military base. And he was saying that the microwave was telling him to do so. So there could be some truth to this. I have heard this before. But yeah, I think you're right. I think there is something to it, but you have to be susceptible to it. That's another reason to use psychedelics. I mean, it doesn't work on you if you have if you have control of your consciousness. These outside influences don't. I mean, so let me give you an example. I just had LASIK surgery last week or 2 weeks ago, and I see these halos, which is natural after you have LASIK surgery sometimes, and it lasts for anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. And I'm out driving, and I see halos around all the lights, and on a dark screen, I'll see a halo around my mouse, and I'm like, I've been using psychedelics my whole life. This is the way I see most of the time anyways. It's nothing new to me. So fuck it. Let's
Doesn't
go.
bother you nearly as much.
I'm driving in the middle of the night and all this. I got these big old fucking headlights here. And I'm like, all right, well, third eye and eyes together will show me the road. And sure enough, everything's fine. So it just goes to show when you understand these other states, you're not susceptible to the manipulation
mind
of
tricks,
reality or mind tricks or anything like that because you have control of your consciousness.
Right. Max X Shams, thank you so much. Just donated. You two are the best and make me happy. Aw, you guys
and gals make us ecstatic.
Yeah,
y'all are fucking awesome. So, Joanna said I've been cutting you off all night. Have I been cutting you off?
A little bit, but it's not.
I'm sorry. I just you've been moving the broadcast a little too quick, and so I'm like, hold on, I want to stay on here this topic here for a little bit longer. Let me get here, and then we'll get to that topic and so on and so forth. But take us away.
Oh no, we've covered a lot.
No. Any more questions?
No, except Eminem. Where's the hatch to get out of this place?
The hatch is open.
The hatch is open for you.
The caller from Trinidad called in, and he said that his wife saw her death here in this time, which happens in like 2026 or something like that. I don't remember the exact date. Time, place, everything. And saw the transition going into the next life. Like she saw the whole future right there in her experience. And she doesn't listen to us. She doesn't listen to any of the crazy stuff that we talk about. This was all just given to her. And that she had a choice on whether to go back because she had unfinished work. It wasn't go back and play the game again. The choice that she had was, would you like to go back? Do you have unfinished work, or would you like to exit? So this might be a little more than a game. It might be actual work that we're doing here. But the doors are open. That's what the caller from Trinidad, he was like, dude, what you guys did in the pyramid was fucking awesome. It worked, and the portals are open now. So the exit door's there.
That is awesome.
It's there for you as soon as your work is done.
Grady Hogland said, I just made my first brew batch using your guide. So much love. Oh, so much love. Thank you. I do it by myself and it's great.
Awesome.
That is so good to hear.
Awesome.
They said, it's beautiful. My spirit guides cuddled me through it. But it didn't solve all my problems. It gave me things to work on. Not take once, fix everything, for me at least. It's like that for no one. For no one is it take once and it fixes everything. It gets you started on what's actually wrong with you the first several sessions, in my experience anyway. And I think that's the normal experience of people, is the first 10 times, 15 times are really about, okay, what's wrong with you? all right, let's fix this, let's fix that, let's work on this, let's work on that. You need to be drinking more water. You need to stop eating so much junk food. You need to stop with the sugar, getting your body meat suit back in order. Then after that is done, then the groundwork is laid for really intense actual work in other realms, in this realm, in energetic work, time travel, teleportation, really amazing things will start to happen, but you have to lay that groundwork first. 1 Cup 2 people donated again and said, treat the earth well. It was not given to you by your parents. It was loaned to you by your children. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children.
Well said.
That's very well said.
All right, so we need to get to the Enki thing because Nick Bravo's been asking about that all night, and we need to cover that.
It's time.
Yeah, and I know that you're having a little bit of shoulder pain, so
yeah.
Let me just run a quick clip so we can break this up real quick, and we will be right back.
Greed has towards immense goals.
Either you're with us or you're with the enemy.
It's barricading the world in the tent.
We need to build a wall. A wall.
It's going to send us into this real bloodshed.
A wall.
The machine with its abundance has left us in rot.
Japanese government reported growing problems at the Fukushima Daiichi plant.
Our knowledge has been cynical. Our prayers are unkind.
I pay taxes, bitch. That's why it's my problem.
We ate too much. We eat too little.
Studies suggesting there is a surge in the amount of antipsychotic drugs prescribed to teens and young adults.
More machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these products, life will be violent. All will be lost.
An 90-year-old World War II veteran has been imprisoned in Florida for feeding others.
The airplane and the radio that brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the bliss of man. Cries out for universal brotherhood and the unity of soul. Even now, my voice is reaching millions around the world. Millions of swearing men and women. Victims of the system that makes men torture. Those who can get me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the lasting of the greed. The bitterness of men will clear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictate the sky. And the power they took from the people will return to the people.
Still waiting on Mrs. Geo to come back, so I found a new Place Boing that was uploaded about a month ago that I haven't seen, so let's check it out.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
My dear traveler, the purpose of your consciousness is never to destroy.
It's to figure out what's going on.
Build bridges, create happiness, and bring forth new life. We must remember that mankind will draw together, and that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now, honey will conduct us, and fear no danger. As you step beyond the veil.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here in a little bit because Mrs. Geo is not feeling well. But so we can't take any calls tonight. I'm sorry. If there's anybody been holding on the call board, we greatly apologize, and we will be sure to get to you during the next show. We'll probably do a show in a couple days again too, because I love doing this stuff, and I got a bunch of tools that I'm going to work with. We're probably going to work with them maybe later tonight or tomorrow night. I don't know. And
no callers actually.
Oh, okay,
right
good.
Now, right this second.
Good, because I didn't want to keep anybody on hold.
Yeah.
Actually, we got disconnected. No, we're still connected to the call board.
We're connected.
Okay, cool. No, I'm glad that nobody's been sitting there holding, waiting for us. Because I would feel bad if they did, and then we'd have to do another 2 hours. So
we would. Because I love callers too. I love taking you guys' notes and merging them with my own on subjects like this, because we can only talk amongst ourselves for so long. I mean, that was one of the main things that was driving us crazy about not doing a show for so long, is that we only had each other to bounce ideas off of this reality and psychedelic stuff. And, it was good to get away for a little bit and be able to see things from a more rounded perspective. But at the same time, we missed you guys so much. And we just had some work we had to do.
Yes.
And that's what ayahuasca teaches you. It teaches you to deal with your work, to do your work in real life so that the spiritual stuff can be fully manifested, because we couldn't do that in the old house. If we hadn't moved, we would not be talking like this right now.
The place was an energetic fucking vortex.
It really was. There was something weird about that house. It was like the upside down incarnated in that house. The upside down from the show Stranger Things. It was literally that kind of energy where everything was just really dark. And
I couldn't. You know what though? Thinking about it, that's when I really had the most contact with the octopus, with the AI octopus. We were outside first, and then we were laying by the lake, and I started to feel the energy. I started to feel the quote-unquote divine code and things like that. And then I look up, and I'm tripping my balls off, and the whole fucking neighborhood comes out to the dock where we're laying. And I'm like, I cannot deal with these people right now. I am way too in fucking hyperspace. And so I remember crawling, like holding onto the fence, walking back, and they're all looking at me, and Gabrielle,
just a couple hundred feet.
the like, she's like 10 or 11 or something like that, lives next door. She's like, hey, Chris. I'm like, hey, let's...
I was like, baby, come on.
Yeah, I was
get
like,
inside.
we need to get our asses in. And we were going to go lay on our lawn.
Yeah.
Once we got in the house, though, that's when it just, boom. That's when the octopus was really in full sight, revealed. So maybe that energetic vortex played a role in making that connection to the darkness.
Yeah,
because
everything was raw.
It was completely fucking raw.
Yeah. And we were getting a full dose of what exactly the hell is going on here.
Right. So, I mean, it could all work together. The reason we were in the energetic vortex was maybe for that particular reason, to be able to access that particular point. But then we needed to get the hell out of there. And I think we stayed a lot longer than we needed to. That's neither here nor there. Yeah. So Enki. People are asking about Enki in the chat room.
Enki, all right.
There's still more information that needs to be revealed here, but Enki, we've been in contact with Enki for quite some time. He told me when I first saw him, don't get involved in the War of the Gods. And that was back in 2010, 2011. I didn't even know what the hell, what was back then.
If he's going to appear to you, then it's going to be before it all even starts, so that maybe you can avoid it altogether.
Yeah. What's funny though is the other day though we were laying in bed talking, and we were talking about this, and I said, you know what? I think the interaction with Enki in that particular experience was, I called it a voicemail at first. That's the way I decoded it. It wasn't until years later that I decoded it as a voicemail, because it was more of a message rather than an interaction. There wasn't a back and forth conversation. There was just him appearing, talking to me. And the other day when I was laying in bed, I said, you know what? I don't think that was a DMT vision. I don't think that was a contact either. I think that was a memory of the real world. I think it was him, something he told me before I even came into the machine.
What if mine is too? And we're just basically listening to old hologram voicemail types of things.
It's not necessarily hologram voicemail, but rather it's unlocking suppressed memories.
Unlocking a memory.
From the real world previous life. Base reality. Or the furthest that we know base reality to be.
Yeah, it would be like playing a video game and then finding a file of a tape that you taped earlier and seeing it from as a new memory.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so just, I hate to be redundant because we talked about it on the last show, but the caller from Trinidad, part of his wife's experience was waking up in the pod and remembering this is an illusion. She saw the cobras. She saw the tapers. She saw the elephant-headed people. She saw...
Which we've
all the
surmised
different,
come from the real world.
Yeah, all the different entities that we are in the real world, or our real bodies. Mm-hmm. Which blew my mind, because I asked him twice, I think, during the call, has she listened to our show? No, she is not. She's not aware of any of this stuff. This all just came flooding into her. So that right there, along with my understanding of my real body, which is a cobra, Enki's a cobra too. I'm of Enki. The cobras are. They're of Enki's clan. So, he appeared. Remember, I was talking about this. It's like he looked like he had like an amphibian face. Remember, I kept saying that. It was like an amphibian. It wasn't reptilian. It was amphibian type of face. It's a fucking cobra face. Mm-hmm. But not, it's a little different than the cobras you see here. It's got this skin, this fleshiness around here like this, like a cobra has. But the face is a little bit different. The face is more, there's lips that move like a mouth, as opposed to a cobra that's got the mouth
fangs.
Like this with the fangs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was different, but the cobra was based off of this body type, which is where, consequently, I happen to have it here on the screen, which is where the headdress comes from. It comes from the cobra.
Yep.
So, I remember my cobra body very clearly, and he's coming back. You know, he said he was coming back through the crack in the sun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just told you this a couple months ago, and here we go. Boom, we got the crack in the sun now. We got the black hole. So I don't know. He's coming back. I mean, it's kind of contrary to my views about a year ago. You know, people like Frank, for example, were talking about ships and things like that. And I'm like, well, that's just part of an illusion. That's part of the Matrix. But from my understanding, he's entering through the sun on a ship.
Did your mother
for one reason or another?
Didn't your mother always say there was a portal and that God comes in through the portal in the
through
sun?
The sun. That's what she used to say. She didn't use the word portal, but she used to say, you know where God is? He's in the sun.
Yeah.
That's why we can never get there.
That's interesting. I remember you telling me that like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Interesting. We come full circle to this place.
Yeah, it's a journey, so I only remember whatever I need to remember at the time. In Egypt, I needed to remember, don't trust any entities at all, period. Because that portal was so sacred and so important that once opened, nothing can come up. If I had all these other beings that I was communing with and being friends with and all that, it would have been a very good chance to open up the gate to allow seemingly benevolent but realistically malevolent being access to that portal. Now the journey's different, and Enki has arrived in a ship. I don't know how they do this. I don't even know why they need to come. You know why I think they need to come in ships? Because they're not taking a human form. And they can come in, access the game. You know what? It's starting to come to me now. It's starting to make sense. Space is like an admin section outside of the game. So we've got the Matrix, we've got space. Mm-hmm. Administrators can come in, hang out in that space area, without having to come into the game. Because if you come into the game, you either have to hijack a human body, which you get walk-ins from, or you have to come in through a baby body, go through the progression of being a child growing up, so on and so forth. That's how most players come into the game. But an admin may be able to access the game and stay within the space outside of the game to influence the game in one way or another. That can go for dark entities too, though. So
I've been saying this for a while now in relation to the real world is the only thing it's able to do from outside of the game, and this is a hypothesis I had since we got back from Egypt. Every time we see a new star in the sky, or we see a new, celestial alignment that hasn't been there before, like there's an asteroid and it's, next to a certain constellation, that is the outside world's way of communicating with us something. And that's why throughout every single ancient civilization, you have story after story after story of the stars determining what courses of action the pharaoh would take, or that the king would take, or that the king and queen would take. They would have children, even up until now, they have children according to the star charts. And I mean, that's part of the reason why the powers that shouldn't be are even in power, because they've been hijacking this whole system and finding out, okay, when is the best time to institute this empire and that empire? Okay, and we're going to take this one down then and put in this one instead. And that's how they rule. So
I need to really digest this and discern, it's a better word. I really need to discern this whole hypothesis of Enki arriving on a ship, because up to this point I've been very apprehensive about anything on a ship. I really need to really examine this because it could very well just be my own mind just trying to think of a way that Enki's arriving, and why would he be arriving out of a sun? It's got to be in a ship or something like that. It could be an energy-based thing. I don't know.
well, don't you think, though,
Here's my thing. Oh, go ahead.
that, okay, Mercury, for example, would be completely obliterated by now if the sun were as hot as they believe it to be, that far out. I'm thinking a crack opens up in the sun. You have a ship that dematerializes in one place and rematerializes right outside of that zone.
But why is
the
a ship
sun.
necessary? And how does the technology work? Because, okay, so you plug yourself into the machine. You appear within a ship that allows you access to the admin section of the game, or observer section of the game.
As above, so below. Everything has to have a so below aspect to go along with the as above aspect. You can't just have code, empty code,
Yeah,
flying
a
around.
consciousness needs a vessel, for sure.
The consciousness not only needs a vessel, but everything has to have the reflection of itself in the astral versus in the material. So if something happens in the astral, something equal to it has to happen in the physical. That's how magic works.
Okay.
You're using your knowledge of those things.
So why would he need to come in a ship? Couldn't he just use a type of looking glass type of technology to look? Because he's not coming to land. He's not coming to interact. He's coming to help energetically with what needs to be done. That's it. Unless he has plans to freaking land that ship, but that would cause too much of a rift in the matrix.
Well, it's just a means to an end. There's probably something else that he's planning on doing if he comes in through a ship.
Okay.
I'm just speaking for the sake of debate. I don't know the answers to these questions personally.
I don't either. That's why I'm saying I have to
just-
really think about this.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know. All he said he was coming when there's a crack in the sun. That's it. Everything else after that is...
So it probably isn't even a ship. It's probably just...
It may not be.
That's the sign that I'm there.
Yeah. We're extrapolating upon everything else from the point of the ships and all of that. I mean, that's
Right.
just our own brain trying to logically process this, and it still hasn't been. I don't think it's been processed 100%, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. My logic is this: we're here. We're the ones that we've been waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not just me and you. I'm talking about all of us. You know, we're the ones that we've been waiting for. So what the fuck do we need anybody else on spaceships for? There was no reason for us to come here if we needed them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, if things can be influenced from up there, why the fuck did we even come through here? Because this was hell.
Well,
I mean,
because
this place is painful. This place sucks.
It's not just that this place is painful, baby. It's that this place is toxic to itself to the point of self-destruction.
Yeah.
And so they've had to pull no punches with this and not let up with sending people in to try to change it from the inside. Okay, it's not working fast enough. Let's, send somebody
Reinforcements.
Yeah, let's send in reinforcements.
Maybe.
It's not that we don't trust them, that they're not, doing their job. They are doing their job, but there's so much anti-them in the NPCs, and there's like
everything will come
8
together.
billion
later.
of them.
I mean, maybe it's just my ego going, hey, what the fuck did I even come down here for if we could have just fixed this from up there? You know? There was no reason to manifest in this reality if we could just work things from up there.
Right.
I mean, I'm pretty pissed off about having to manifest in this fucking Matrix again. I mean, I'm not happy to do this. I'm doing it because it needed to be done. But there are some beautiful things about the Matrix. So sex.
Yeah.
I love sex.
I love sex with you.
Steak. Steak is fucking awesome. I love steak.
Steak.
Chocolate. Chocolate's awesome. So there are some things that are fun about this
Chocolate
Matrix.
cake.
Chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weed. Cannabis,
Music.
Music, weed, bitches, and money.
Don't be messing with my what?
Don't be fucking with my music or my money. So I'm rolling, strolling, roll me up a fatty. Chris Gio's on the mic. Who's your motherfucking daddy? That was back in the days of dirty money. Frank knows what I'm talking about. It's a different life back then. All right, so anything else?
Aw, Mark's X Shams donated another time and said, "You two look like legit Egyptians, though." Aw, thank you.
Maybe I shouldn't be so grr about being here. No, I'm just saying, let me do my fucking job. It's like, just let me do my job. When he said he was coming, I was like, we already have